Morning, morning, morning. Morning, Roxanne. Thank you as always for my broom. Sunday blessings to you as well. Lynette Harris, morning. Daniela Williams. Christopher Surratt, morning, sir. Ruth Truth, morning to you. Carl Boyce, John, 1, 2, 3. Morning, morning, Rookman. Dandy Sanderford, morning to you. Judy Bowen, morning, Judy. Esther Blake, morning. Alison Boyce, morning to you. Felix Hospitalis, morning, sir. Cyril Mayas, morning to you. Jennifer Nicholas, morning. Let's see what's his name. Marva James, morning, Marva. Joycelyn Smallwhite, morning to you. Diane. Charles, morning, Diane, morning, Joy. Kenneth Gabriel, morning. Claudette, morning to you. Sharon Williams, Nadia Lewis Dixon. Morning, Margaret Carleen Musa Davis. Good morning, Gemma Alexander. Macaroni Tony, morning, sir. Leon Joseph. Will Durant, morning, Will. Neil Francois, always present, morning, sir. Glenn Richardson, top of the morning to you as well. Glenn says he was in Florida. My second home, if I might call it that. Still some time yet. I don't know if I might go next month or probably in September. Sharon Williams, let's see. Good morning to His Excellency Nigel O'Connor, President of Pleasantville, and First Lady Mauricia Keegan. Nadia Lewis, morning, Nadia. Phyllis Antoine, morning to you. Kathleen Gibbs, Winston Jack. Demetri McEwen, morning. Annette Baird, Claire Carrington, morning, Claire. That is what I was supposed to find. Alberta Sampat, morning. Thank you, Roxanne. I haven't worn this shirt in a while. I have a ton of shirts that I haven't worn in a while. So some of them are making a comeback soon. Let me see. Let me get this thing here. So let me get something. Dale Prescott, Deborah Edgehill, Sarah Richards, Jennifer Dorset, morning to all of you guys. Happy Sunday to all. Was it time there? Yeah. All right. So quite a few things to talk about today. Let's see if I could get it done in the time that we have. So let us start by. Start with that. So we would have had last week some police roadblocks which annoyed quite a few citizens, felt inconvenience because of the traffic and so on. But to the best of my recollection, the police would have warned in light of, well, even before that, but more so in light of last weekend's multiple killings. I think they are to decide whether it was 15 or 19. I'm hearing different figures, right? But in response to those figures, the police did indicate that they're going to be, to quote them, in your face, right? And they're letting citizens know that up front they are going to be in your face. You're going to be seeing a lot more roadblocks. And yes, it may be inconvenient, but it is for the greater good. But of course, you had people who were upset about it because the traffic and all of that, who reached work late and all these things. But if you want the police to fix the problem, then of course you need to bear with them for a little bit. Let me read one comment in particular from one of these individuals who we normally hear from, right? Inshan Ishmael. This was his response yesterday. No roadblocks today? Oh, sorry, criminals does only use the roads on Monday to Friday. Saturdays. So you're upset that they had roadblocks Monday to Friday. But you find they should have had the roadblocks on Saturday as well. Saturday and Sunday. So as if people don't use the roads on Saturday and Sunday. So he too had an issue with the roadblocks. But the thing about it is, and again, this is the problem. Based on a newspaper article that I saw yesterday, the police would have indicated that as a result of these roadblocks, they were able to retrieve 7 guns, 2 of which were AR-15s, high-powered rifles, automatic rifles, semi-automatic rifles, over 300 rounds of ammunition, which included the 5.56 bullets, which when Gary Griffith was commissioner of police, that was one of 2 bullets that he would have highlighted at a press conference that he did to show the type of bullets that these criminals were working with and to tell us the type of damage that these bullets could do. Police would have gotten, as I said, retrieved 7 firearms, over 300 rounds of ammunition, and would have arrested 113 persons for various issues. Some who had outstanding warrants. In one case, they arrested a soldier who had been absent without leave for the past 5 years. And we know how the army, the TTDF, how they treat with issues like that. So when you are absent without leave, so he will end up in the brig down in Tetron, down on that side there. So yeah, he in the lockup for a while. But these are the things that are not highlighted, so that when people cussing the police, oh, it's an inconvenience. There are 7 less guns on the streets. And the persons who would have been found with these weapons, well, for now, they're off the streets, unfortunately, because, well, the law that would deny them bail has now been proclaimed. So if, in fact, they have had previous interactions with the law for gun crimes, they will be inside for at least 6 months, right? For at least 6 months, these persons will not be able to apply for bail. And how many other persons the police would have held, whether it might have been a carload, who knows? Those guns, those 7 guns might have been used to commit murders. So when they do their tracing and whatnot and the ballistics and so on, the police would be able to determine whether or not these firearms would have been used. So it may result in a situation where the persons who were found to be in possession of these firearms, as a result of the roadblocks, while now they may simply be facing a charge of being in possession of illegal firearms. If ballistics come back and show that any of these firearms were used to commit murders, they will now also have murder charges against them as well, which would also impact their ability to come out after the 6 months to apply for bail, even though they could still apply for bail for murder. But based on the recently proclaimed law, it might be a little more difficult for them to get bail, and at least the police might be able to solve a crime or 2 coming out of that, because some of these firearms may have been used to commit multiple murders. But the citizens who gripe in and vex, not considering that. They're not considering that. If it is the police had a roadblock last week Saturday, perhaps the men who shot up the fellas in Konopia by rituals might have been caught in one of these roadblocks, because they weren't riding bicycles when they went to commit these crimes. They were driving a car, right? But that's the problem. When the police not working, we vex. When they're working and the work inconveniences us, we vex. But we want them to solve the crimes, you know. But where is the kudos? Even if it's 2 guns that they got off of the street, it is still better. That is 2 guns less, notwithstanding the fact that we still have more coming into the country. And we have not yet discussed the revelation that was made by the Minister of Finance a few weeks ago with respect to the challenges that are being faced on the port regarding scanners, where certain persons on the port who are responsible for operating the forklifts seemingly constantly running into the scanners, damaging the scanners, and therefore they can't work. Coincidentally. So you have experience, you are hired to drive forklift, operate forklift, and you keep running into the scanner by accident, and you're still there. Right? But that's a discussion for another time. But just to see, we need to bear with the police with respect. I mean, I got caught in one of the roadblocks too, but understanding the necessity for it. Yes, the traffic could be a bit frustrated, but at the end of the day, it's part of the process. And when we complain about, and I see people making comments on social media, well, yeah, the giving people ticket for smooth tires, and giving people ticket for expired license, and giving people ticket for invalid insurance and so on, that will stop the crime. That is a crime. Those things are crimes. That is why you could get a ticket for it and you would get demerit points. But the same people who complaining about that and find that stupidness that the police doing and only harassing citizens, when one of them end up in an accident with one of these same persons who have invalid insurance and they run into your car and they have no insurance and the damage that is done to your vehicle is significant, then you will understand and appreciate the need for the police doing what it is that they're doing to crack down on these persons, these errant individuals who are driving and operating vehicles without valid insurance and in some cases expired licenses. We've excellent, but when it hit you personally and your car get damaged or your property get damaged, and this person has no insurance to give you the money to fix your property, and you now have to go to your insurer to claim, and it affects your no claim, and so you vex. You want to cost, right? You think all these people, what my people, what they're doing in licensing and all that rubbish. 6 or 1 half a dozen of the next. The police have to do what it is that they have to do. Just bear with them. Yes, it's an inconvenience, but we're looking at what's the bigger picture. And I would be more than happy if it is that persons who are not following the law, but even the simplest of things. Because if they run into my car and they don't have insurance, I upset. Because I had that experience a couple of years ago where Venezuela National, and I was driving along that street. The street before Long Circular, or was that not that stretch? Long Circular Mall stretch there. I can't remember what road that's is that George Cabral Street or something so. And I'm heading west. And a Venezuelan national swings out from one of the side streets. Not paying it, he looking west, right? You're swinging out onto the lane heading west, but you're looking west. Instead of looking east, they ain't paying no attention. And I swing now to try and avoid him, and he runs into the side of my car, broadside me. The whole left side of my car damaged. I pull to the side, he comes out of his car, I come out of my car, looking to exchange information and so on, asking for his number, his name, number, whatever it is. I couldn't really speak English properly. And looking to tell me, well, he going in the car to get the insurance and stuff. I say, okay. So I take out my license written. My boy jump in the car and go on, go on and leave me. But at least I was able to get the license plate number, but I wasn't of much help. So I went to the police station and I made my report and so on. Yeah, but as I said, it really didn't. So I had to make a claim, my insurer, to fix my car. So I'm saying things like that. These persons who should not be on the street. So I'll bear with the police a little bit now. 7 less guns, 2 high-powered guns, 2 high-powered rifles off the street, and the persons who were found to be in possession of those guns, they are now behind bars, and hopefully they will stay there for a while. Okay, so I wanted to play something here. Well, I'm gonna put this on. I had mentioned to you all last week. So normally after the program, for some people who may not look at it live, they would go back on Facebook and YouTube and look at it. And some people would comment. Now, when you make comments after the live has ended, I get the comments show up in my email, right? So I will read it. I don't usually read much of what because it's distracting to read here and do the live, right? So there was a gentleman, I can't remember his name. Let me see if I pull it up here. Who took issue with my position with respect to the PanoTrinbago matter and the land in Trinity and the swap PanoTrinbago for the property that the government is giving them on Ryson Road. Let me see if I could find that here. And I did tell him, well, give me a whole rinse out my ears. Well, not my ears, my eyes. Just now, let me get here. Let me see if I could pull that comment up. Just give me 1 sec. Let me see if I got this thing. Just give me 1 sec, folks. Let me just see if I get this thing. Because I told them I would respond to him live, and that was my intention to do last week Sunday, and then TNTech ended up doing me duty, and I wasn't able to respond to him. Right, but where is this thing going? Anyway, so the president of PanoTrinbago yesterday was on I-95.5 on the barbershop, John and John. And she made some rather interesting comments. with respect to that whole matter about the land in Twin City and the like, right? Let me see if I get this here. I just wanted to play a little bit of what it is she said. Let's see if I get this here. This one. Where is this thing going? This one. 29, I think it was. Yes. Well, I know some of you would have listened to it, but let me just get this here. Yeah, don't worry. I know I said I'm going to deal with Wasa today and be dealing with Wasa, but I just wanted to play this just clip for the benefit of that individual. I was trying to find the nonsense that he sent me so I can read it for you. But anyway, let's see if I get this here. Right.
House in order, and we are getting the support. And not only PanoTrinbago, you have to be smart. I said it to Minister Gonzalez. Gonzalez?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Any politician who want to win election and want to be famous, just like my Panyard now. Because in the Panyard, hundreds of people getting in country. You could win your election standing up by the door of a Panyard.
And from all stratas of society.
All stratas of society, you find them in the Panyard. And that goes to all politicians, whether it's on this side or on that side. Whichever side.
Mm-hmm. And have them who just forget to, like John Gill, he always say too. Let me ask this question. Twin City. I know you all got a big piece of property in Twin City. I can't come in and ask about the land.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
And that was supposed to be a big establishment for Pan. What happened to that piece of what's happened to that property?
Well, that was since, I think, 21 years or so. Mm-hmm. Former Prime Minister Pandey gave PanoTrinbago a portion of land at Twin City. But before that, Dr. Eric Williams gave Silpan Association, National Silpan Association, 2 acres of land at Williams Bay in Chagaramas. A land that they had buildings on. We are still paying water rate for that land all now. But I think the Chagaramas Development, CDA, when they came in and there was some confusion going on. I remember reading headlines where Richard Forto was saying that Panmen will die for Williams Bay. So apparently when Patrick Arnold and maybe Adam Smith and all of them would have had the conversation, they agreed now to give them that land down at Twin City to keep things quiet now. Mm-hmm. Because you lose prime land up in Williams Bay. Prime land. Anyhow, when I came in, as you know, after how much years that thing down there, this I saw when I'm going home to Tobago, my neck stiff on one side because I was so embarrassed about the thing. Bush for so. So then I said, you know what, let's go in there and see if we can clean it up. Let some light shine forth. And so one day, Ralph of Pan Angels, he's a former soldier. We went in there, military man. I don't know, like Ralph probably, I don't know what it's for prayers. He said over my head to go in that place. Big bush. Listen, when you went in, I went up in that building, me and about 3 other members. Listen, if you see that place with muck and grime and slime and all the big jet and the big snake and the big spider and everything. We invested, we cleaned up the place, we looked at it, we prayed to God, Father, to lead us, to guide us. We really, really wanted to do something with the building. And we invested money. We put on a container there. They stole that. They spent 20,000 for the container, down to the toilet, and all that people just take it and they're gone. And then one day I said, you know what? Let us go and search the title of this thing. Because how it is we have all this land and we can't go to the bank. How it is, we have this memorandum of this lease and we can't go to the bank with it all these years and we're suffering. And then when we did the search, it so happened that we did not have any legal title to the land. So we had Prime Minister Pandey, former Prime Minister, who said, PanoTrinbago, we're giving you this land and we're going to build this place for you. It was never done. Then we had another former Prime Minister, Kamala Prasad Bissessar. She promised to give 7 million at phase 2 Panyard and we're going to complete the building. Nothing is happening. But we know for sure that Honorable Keith Rowley said that he's going to construct a headquarters for PanoTrinbago, but it's had to be in the capital. He said that at an invaders function. Now, so much confusion going on. And I say in my mind, what really going on with that space? And I'll get back to the ancestors now. So much confusion. They're not happy. They want to go down in the cane field. They ain't going back in no land that associated with pain. Because we don't come from pain and struggle behind the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So the spiritual side I'm talking now, because they're trying to understand what's going on with this land. Nothing, we ain't prospering down there. And we must prosper in all things. They block me behind the bridge because I can't come in town. Now you want to send me down the road so that I can't come in town. Well, I take the town land. Waterfront for waterfront. It has more value than the agricultural land. Prime Minister came up with a proposal. One thing I know, you can't fight government if they want to acquire land. If the big house that you, John, built down in Charlie Bay down there, Williams Bay, if the government want it, they come in for it. And you have to move. So what you need to do as president and leader, you need to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
It's 30 acres, you know. PanoTrinbago only have a lease for 8 acres, you know. PanoTrinbago have a lease for 8 acres of land. The government go in and take over 30 acres of land to do what they have to do. Ramsey Moore and her team decided to be strategic. And so we met with our members. We said, listen, I had a conversation with the Prime Minister. This is a proposal. Listen, should we entertain the discussion or should we rumble? Should we entertain or should we rumble? Members, there was a quorum at the meeting. The members agreed. Executive, go forward with the discussion. I went forward with the discussion. I came back. I reported to them that government is willing to give us the land on the waterfront, which is the old post office building. They are going to construct a brand new headquarters for us and all of that. They said, Madam President, go forth. I sat down with Udicott, in our line minister's office with the PS and everybody. Udicott presented a draft, the design, and there is way. What I know for a fact, that cabinet has agreed to give us the waterfront land, which is much more valuable than the 8 acres of agricultural land down the road. Up the road.
Yeah.
Up the road.
So they have agreed to give you the land and the construct.
Building. Because PanoTrinbago don't have 2 cents to build, we could build something. Pipe dreams, I am not going to be a fool, you know. Without a vision, the people perish.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, we must give way and of course, and to the Prime Minister for coming forward.
Thank you, Prime Minister Rowley. And you know he's a pan man too, right?
Of course. Well, so he say.
Well, not so he say. Okay. So I know.
Stars.
Not all stars, right? Is the man and he traveling through there.
Invaders there.
He's supposed to.
But he's in all stars for mass.
I know he just play mass with all
I jump up pretty, hug up tight in all stars.
I let you a powder and thing.
Yeah.
When it's powder, we call it powder.
Pan and powder.
Pan and powder.
Yeah.
I want to get him in pan and powder, but he gonna be there this year for sure.
How the minister, how would you share with you and the minister of tourism, culture, and the arts? What you say?
I should
boyfriend.
Hey.
So the main thing I wanted to draw from that interview, it was an extensive interview, and if you didn't hear it yesterday, you could always go back on I-95 on Facebook and listen to it, because she said a lot, not just with respect to that land, but PanoTrinbago on the whole and the challenges that she would have faced when she came in as president. And she made the point, as you heard her say there, PanoTrinbago don't have 2 cents. They don't have 2 cents to rub together. Pipe dreams. So this individual, I can't remember his name. I'll see if I find the YouTube message that he sent me. Talking about the land in Trin City, they're supposed to build the headquarters and a gas station and a mall and all of these fanciful things. But the key point is what we just heard there. PanoTrinbago don't have 2 cents to rub together. Right? She said when she came in 2018, the coffers were empty. The coffers of PanoTrinbago, the bank account of PanoTrinbago resembled what the treasury looked like when the People's Partnership left office in 2015. All it had was lint. The accounts were in a mess for years, right? And they had to seek assistance to be able to fix their audited financials and so on before they could continue to get sponsorship from corporate Trinidad and Tobago, before they could continue to get money from the state, because their affairs were not in order. She spoke about all of that yesterday. And the fact that when she came in shortly thereafter, she received an eviction notice. I mentioned to you all last time, PanoTrinbago was renting a little room in that plaza opposite Victoria Square there, by where PEP headquarters is. Right? For years, as someone who was involved in the adjudication of mass and so on, when we at the Victoria Square judging point, you see the PanoTrinbago sign up on the wall there. And she indicated that when, I think she said that was Amar's building or something, and they received an eviction notice when she came in. Unfortunately, they were blessed by Israel Khan, who owns a building on the other side of the square, right on the corner of Melbourne Street there and Duke Street, which was previously the NAR headquarters. And Israel Khan would have allowed them to use the building for a year and a half rent-free. So that was a blessing to them, and they were able to operate there. But she realized that the main problem plaguing PanoTrinbago was the issue of administration and proper administration. She had to put structure in place to bring them to where they are today. But all these things that this individual want to come and talk about why it is I supporting driving out PanoTrinbago from the land in Trin City. First of all, you get the figure wrong. It wasn't 13 acres, as you just heard there. It's 8 acres is what was given to them. They had asked, and then they asked the Manning administration for an additional 3 acres or something to that effect. But this whole thing about a mall and gas station, people say things in the heat of the moment. So, first of all, 23 years ago, Pande said, I'll be giving all the land. Bring the designs and my government will find the money to build the headquarters for you all. And then we see that structure there. They say it cost $10 million. I don't understand how that could cost $10 million. But anyway. But the executive and the president at that time were the ones who articulated all these grandiose plans, because they get land and they say, well, all right, yeah, but you know what thing we could do there? We could build this and build that. But where was the money to build it? You could talk that talk. Yes, you have the land to build these things. But it's not just, you don't just need land alone. You need the capital, the money to build it. And 23 years later, not even the headquarters finish. But this individual wants to come at me to talk about a rubbish. Oh, they take away the land from PanoTrinbago and all kind of thing, and all the things that were supposed to build and whatnot. Foolishness is talking about. After 23 years, not even the headquarters finished. So what, you want to wait another 23, another 30 years, and still singing the same song about all the land is supposed to build this and supposed to build that? Outside of Carnival, how does PanoTrinbago earn money? Outside of Carnival. So they get a subvention from the state and they get receipts from the two main events that they have, which is the semis and the finals of Panorama. Otherwise, how do they make money? You realize the kind of capital that you would need to be able to build all of those things? And if after 23 years, nothing has been built. I know you're talking about PanoTrinbago land. But it's only now all of you bleeding hearts want to come out to advocate. But for the last 23 years, where was the advocacy for the construction of all of these things that Patrick Arnold and his administration articulated? Where is Patrick Arnold today? Deceased. Where is his executive? The persons who won his executive, where are they today in terms of making a contribution to the PAN movement? So that was their vision. But there was nothing in stone that obliged any of the subsequent administrations that came in to follow through on that. Did Patrick Arnold and his team put anything in place money-wise to be able to do that? So even if they were voted out of office, that there would still be funds in the coffers to construct these things? No. But you want to come at me to talk about nonsense about you're ashamed of me and so on. Really? You should be ashamed of yourself. Come in the comments and tell me what it is that you did for the last 23 years to advocate for the construction of any of these things. But here it is now that PanoTrinbago is given an opportunity to own property in the capital, prime real estate, waterfront real estate nonetheless, right across the road from the cruise ship complex. So as soon as the cruise ships come in and the tourists step off, they cross the road, they could go in the Pan Museum. Where is the Pan Museum today? If the tourists come and they want to know more about Pan, the origins of Pan and the history of Pan, where are they going to get that information? Where? Tell me. But no, you want to come and talk a pack of rubbish. Mask got the museum though, the Penny Bank up on Charlotte Street, and they had that. That was given to them by the First Citizens Foundation. That was a old was formerly a branch of First Citizens. So you could go there, but where is the Pan Museum? Where is Tuco's Museum? Where's the Calypso Museum? Where is it? Instead of advocating for these three bodies to come together and do something to promote, because we love to say Trinidad and Tobago is the Mecca of Carnival, the greatest show on earth. But where is it? Where is the home of Carnival? Where is it? But you want to come and fight me down with your foolishness. Give me a break. But you heard Beverly Ramsey Moore there say, right? They don't have money to build things. And that is not for her administration. So now they're getting another opportunity. As she said, the real estate that they're getting in Port of Spain is worth plenty more than the land. And the government is going to construct. There's a building there, so they may not even have to demolish that building. It may simply be to outfit it, right? To gut what currently exists and fix it and make, if you need to make any additions as the case may be, but they're a lot closer. A lot closer in that scenario there, right? Instead of them paying all the amount of money that they're paying now in rent for headquarters. If what is now being proposed had been done years ago, they would have been in a much better state. But better late than never. But anyway. Meanwhile, Pan making mass outside. Making mass outside. People making millions of dollars off of the Pan outside. But you want PanoTrinbago to focus on. Even if you build all of those things, the mall and the gas station and whatever else, you have to hire people to run all of these things. So you are advocating that PanoTrinbago should move away from their moorings, which is the management and the promotion of the steel pan, to go and play landlord. But even so, they will have the opportunity in these new facilities downtown, because Beverly Ramsey Moore in an interview that she would have done a few weeks ago with one of the newspapers articulated the things they want to have in that facility. The Pan Museum, they will have a gift shop, they will also have rent out some of the space there for persons who, artisans who might want a little space to benefit when it is that the cruise ships come in and so on. So they will also be landlords there, but on a smaller scale than what it is was articulated by Patrick Arnold and his team, who are no longer around. So if you want to hug up this 23-year-old vision that has gone nowhere and probably will go nowhere, that's up to you. You keep holding on to that. You keep holding on to that and see where it will go. 23 more years if you live that long. Might go to your grave and that never happened. But anyway, even the former president, Beverly Ramsey Moore's predecessor, Keith Diaz, demitted office complaining about how much money PanoTrinbago owed him in salaries or how much years and all this kind of thing. That's to tell you the dire straits in which their finances were. So for 23 years, nothing happened. You could tell me they ever met with the architect to draw up any plans, as how Beverly Ramsey Moore just told us she met with Udicott and they presented a draft of what it is they intend to do. Patrick Arnold and his team have that? No, but you want to hug up this, oh, they want to build this and build that. Yeah, see how far that will get you. Anyway. I'll see if I find that comment later on. But anyhow. Also, last week we saw, again, like when Ansel Roger, if he see a week pass and his name not in the newspapers or his face not on the TV, he feels he needs to do something in order to get back into the limelight now. You don't have a lot of them in Trinidad like that. They love to see themselves on TV. They love to see themselves quoted in the newspapers. And when too long a period of time passed and they figure, hey, but like the media no time it we, let us pull some kind of dotish stunt to get airtime. So last week they decided to burn pictures of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Energy and challenge the Prime Minister to a public debate on the closure of PanoTrin. Well, closure of the refinery. And one of the things that is upsetting me with these fools, because somebody drew my attention to a program called Hard Talk on Power 102 that is hosted by Karen Nunes Teixeira and Petty Betty Denise Deming. And I listened to it last week. I think it's every Monday. And I listened to it. And they had David Abdullah as their guest last week. And he came to talk about the closure of the refinery and so on. And one of the things that continues to upset me with these guys whenever they discuss that topic is this claim that the government said one of the reasons why they had to shut down the refineries because PanoTrin was a ward of the state, and PanoTrin, they had to give PanoTrin money and subventions and so on. But the accounts would show that between 2015 to 2017 or 2018, no subvention was paid to PanoTrin, and therefore PanoTrin was a net earner of foreign exchange and all of that, and was making money and didn't need any, and was able to pay for their to pay the bills and didn't need any subvention from the state. And I heard Gary Abu talking that rubbish too. And of course, it was picked up by Professor Misinformation and Captain Clueless and spoken about on their program. But the fact of the matter is, the reason why the accounts would not show PanoTrin receiving any direct subvention from the state between 2015, when the People's Partnership left, to 2017, 2018, is because PanoTrin took their own subvention by withholding taxes and royalties that were owed to the state. They were not paying their taxes and paying their royalties. You expected the government to give them money, and they withholding money from the state? Over $2 billion in taxes and royalties. But Abdullah and Roger and them wouldn't talk that talk. But you see, they will try to fool the masses. They say, well, look, you see the accounts here, watch it. No subvention 2017, 2016, nothing was paid. Because as I said before, they took it for themselves. The argument was that NP was owing them for fuel subsidies $775 million. But they withheld over $2 billion in taxes and subsidies. So the net figure was about $1.2, $1.3 billion that PanoTrin was owing the state in taxes and royalties. But these dishonest bastards wouldn't talk about that and highlight that, because they need to push a narrative, and they know the fully dunce will take that and run with it. The fully dunce in the yellow party, and it seems to have a few of them in the blue party too. Well, that blue party, the original blue party before this latest one came into being. Deceiving the people. And that's why nobody really takes those clowns seriously, you know. It is there. Go and do your research and you will read it and see, and PanoTrin has never denied that for years they were withholding taxes and royalties from the state. They were not paying their statutory receipts to the state in that respect. And so the government obviously wouldn't give them, if they keep in the money. It's the same money that they would have paid to the state if they needed the subvention. The state would give it back to them, but they keep it for themselves. So talk about that, but all too damn dishonest. But want to challenge the Prime Minister to the debate. I wish the Prime Minister would take up that challenge and silence Roger once and for all. He and the rest of them. The public debate, you see, they could yap. But if the Prime Minister take up the challenge, let me see if it is. Let me see if I have it here. Just now, Let me get this here. The man who can't even do simple maths. But what to challenge Dr. Rowley to a debate? You're mad, yes? Let's see if I get this here. Where is it? Yes, no. Sometimes it's good to play these things to remind people. Let me get it here. This thing is, boy, I know I saved it. I'm certain I saved it. So, let me see. Give me 1 sec. No, man. Sometimes this thing just don't cooperate. But anyway. All right, we'll come back to that. Let me jump to the Wasa thing one time, because it's already 11:47. So there was a newspaper, well, not a newspaper story. A story that was carried on, I think, is CNC3 or one of them the other night, which used to be CNC3, because that's the only news I watch, about an overtime scandal at Wasa, in particular, the Tacarigua office. And the claims that were made with respect to that was of concern to Joe Public. But that is nothing new with Wasa, as we all know. Because for years we heard about overtime scam with Wasa, the police service and stuff. In fact, Gary Griffith, when he was commissioner of police, would have cited that one of the reasons why, according to him, police officers were against him was because he sought to clamp down or to crack down on the overtime racket that existed in the police service that he met, where the amount of money being paid in overtime was about $300 million a year in overtime. We're not talking about salaries. And you see, that's another point that needs to be highlighted and raised, that when I listen to the fully duns quoting how much money has been given to the Ministry of National Security over the last 9 years and so on, and how many billions it was. But what they don't tell you is the breakdown of those monies. and that a significant portion of those billions that were given to national security comprises, in the main, wages and salaries. So whether it be people's basic salary and overtime and all of these other expenses, the majority of the money goes towards paying wages and salaries. And remember, national security is not just police, it's the army, fire, all of these different entities, the Coast Guard and all of them. All of those that fall under the national security umbrella, the money is paid to the Ministry of National Security to pay the salaries. It doesn't come directly from the Ministry of Finance. So when we see in all these billions of dollars, Ministry of Health get how many billions, and the Ministry of Education get how many billions, the majority of that money goes to paying salaries to every entity that falls under the ministry. And again, we're not just talking basic salaries, we're talking overtime and other benefits that they get. When they have to be paying pensions and all of these different things, all the majority of these monies that you see allocated to the ministry goes towards that. Human resource costs. But they don't have that discussion, but they're giving you, oh, watch how much money they give me and Gatsby Dolly getting, and look at the state of education, watch how much money the Ministry of Health getting, and look at the state of the hospitals, and look at the state of, But do the research and look at the granular details as to what these monies are spent on. And the amount of money that is available for capital expenditure to fix the hospital and buy bed and all of these things is limited, precious little, because everybody wants a government work. Because they tell us that if you do 33 and a third, well, you're guaranteed you'll get a government pension, and then you will get your NIS and whatever else. Once you're working for the government, you're good to go. Because productivity, a lot of the times, is not a big thing in the public service. Most of these, you have those who go to work and take their job seriously, and then you have those is a government work, is a paycheck, and that's what they're about. And I just want, as I mentioned that, I wanted to highlight something, right? In the police service. So we're blaming the Minister of, I'll get into Wasa just now, but it ties into that. We're blaming the Minister of National Security. He's the worst Minister of National Security ever. We're blaming the Prime Minister, right? But when Gary the Great was Commissioner of Police, and crime was seemingly at acceptable levels, right? Anybody was given credit to the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security? No. Gary got 200% of the credit. So when things good, it's Gary, is the commissioner. But when it bad, blame the minister. So a friend of mine was telling me on Friday of an experience she had, where a few weeks ago, she was held up, she was robbed on Charlotte Street. Her family member, one of her family members, owns a clothing store on Charlotte Street. So when she's finished with her job, a substantive job, she would normally go across to Charlotte Street and, help out the family member and so on and whatnot, or she lines in the store a little bit. So a few weeks ago, she did that. She and her fellow co-worker, right, who was also a family member, they work a different entity. And so they went to the store and they decided to go and look for something to eat. So come out on Charlotte Street now and, walking and looking at things at the side of the road. And she noticed this fella looking at her, but she ain't really thinking he's, checking her out to rob her. Because she thinking, the next one of them thirsty man and them, they can't see a young girl, they all up in it. So she noticed them, but she didn't really paid it attention. So as she's walking now and shortly after passing the guy, because he's standing up at the side, she feels somebody lock her neck, right? Put her in a chokehold. She's a small, petite girl. He lifted her off of the ground. And she said that this chokehold was so intense that she couldn't breathe. So she couldn't even scream out or anything like that, right? The guy hit her some cuff in her head and whatnot and things, snatch her chain, and casually walks off. And it had people around who saw what happening, and nobody sought to give her assistance, right? So after the guy robbed her and he gone now, people saying, but wait, is Rob again robbed there? We thought it was a domestic thing, we say that must be a man and all that, probably have a little falling out and whatnot. Even if that is the case, that you figure is a domestic issue, you couldn't intervene? Now, suppose it was really a domestic issue and he decided going to kill her, right? And he have a little knife, he going and stab her, whatever. People would have stand up around there, see that, and the first thing, the natural instinct is to pull out your phone and record, because everybody looking for likes and shares. Yeah, that's the first thing, likes and shares. Hey, look, this man beating up a girl there on Charlotte Street, boy. So nobody intervened to help her. She was robbed, guy take the chain and he gone. She is traumatized. goes to the police station to make a report. And the police, based on what she said, she left the police station feeling like if she was the perpetrator, right? Asking her, what are you doing on Charlotte Street after 5 in the evening? How much that chain cost? She told them the chain cost, I think, was $2,500 or something like that. And, that's nothing, whatever. You know? This individual, the young lady, was just violated, robbed. Now you can see she says she's, even though she still goes back to Charlotte Street to assist the family member, it's post-traumatic stress disorder, if you want to call it that, right? Because she's looking around now to see, and since that incident has happened, she has seen the guy on Charlotte Street on at least 3 occasions. So when she went to the police station, right, you know, and we've heard people say that, the experiences that they have when they go to the police station. Time you leave there, there's no desire to go back. But the police have a motto, if you see something, say something. But the mechanisms in place to say something make sense, just not there. So you go and you say something and then it's like, you're bothering me, I'll come and forget that now. So the young lady said she got a call from the police telling her to come for an ID parade, right? Because they held somebody and they want to see in case that is the same individual. So she's thinking, so they tell her to come to such and such police station. So she goes to the police station. Of course, it's her first ID parade. So she's thinking, well, you know what we see on TV? They carry you in a room and you have this big mirror. You see the other person, see you, and you look, have a lineup of people and you look and you see these guys, everybody holding a number. They tell you, take your time. You see anybody you recognize? And then you take a look, and if you see anybody you recognize, you say, well, number 2 or number 4, as the case may be. So she's thinking this is what is going to happen, right? She goes to the police station, and they tell her we're going for a drive. She jumps in the police vehicle, and they take her to a branch of Massey stores. A branch of Massey stores. So she said, but what are you doing here? When she gets there, they give her one of those black masks, you know, you're waiting for COVID. Tell her put on that. Go in the grocery, pick up a basket, and walk to the grocery and see if you see the guy. So they had 5 men fitting the characteristics that she described. And they put them in different lanes. And each lane, so they have a guy in a different lane and a plainclothes officer in each lane. And tell her just pretend that you're shopping and just walk through the grocery as normal and see if you recognize anybody. I see what nonsense you're telling me about. She said, yes, that was the ID parade. So she's terrified because if she could recognize the guy, she concerned that, well, he might be able to recognize me even though I have on this mask, right? Because her features. So she's saying, if one of the men that they have in there is the person who robbed her, he don't know, he probably robbed 5, 6, 7 different people. So he doesn't know which one of his victims is coming to look to identify him. So even if, right? So if she could remember what he looks like, chances are he could remember, even though he's not seeing her whole face, the features, and if she was the most recent person that he robbed. So she's terrified to go inside there now. And they tell her, you're not worried, I have plainclothes officers, man. I said, what utter madness you telling me? She said, yeah. So she has to take this basket now and pretend, and she walking through the grocery. And she is traumatized again, right? Because she concerned the fella might be able to recognize her. Well, she didn't recognize any of the guys. So none of them was him. So that was that. She said after that experience, she's not even interested in pursuing that matter anymore. So when they say if you see something, say something. And these are the kind of things that are happening. That's why some people don't even bother to go and make a report. Because she said, you know what, just leave it so because nothing's going to come of it. And if I had to go through this again, where if they hold somebody and they call me if I get, take you to a grocery and tell you walk through. I have never heard that in all my years. But that's how we do it now. That's how we do it now. Right? That's how we do it. So she's not going to pursue that matter, and that is that. And this guy, as I told you, she has indicated she's seen him about 3 times since then on Charlotte Street. What are you doing there? Stalking other people to rob. So when we want to blame the minister And we want to blame the Prime Minister for the state of crime in the country. Understand. But it is really taking place. Those who are tasked with the responsibility to fight crime. I know at least 3 police officers who have said to me, they joined the service, and these are young officers. Some of them, 2 of them would have joined the service in 2020. And they said to me, they came into the service because seeing the state of crime in the country, and they want to be able to make a difference. But as soon as you come into the service, they let you know what the status quo is. Don't come in here and try to play no maverick. Understand? This is how it does work, right? You pack down. Fall in line. So one of them told me the other day, he says, sometimes you think some of these senior officers are here to do. It's not about that. But I doing my job to the best of my ability. But for him, it is a disappointment because in his view, as I said, that's just one of 3 of them that I've spoken to, who have spoken to me and told me their experiences, right? No wonder the crime situation is what it is, because for a lot of these officers, it's just about our work, a paycheck at the end of the month. Some of them, even the paycheck is not enough, and that is why they find themselves involved, because for them, the paycheck is not enough. Some of them came into the service, what they're getting paid as officers now is more, in some cases, twice what they were earning before they came into the service. But you know what they say? The more you make is the more you spend. And the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money. And so some of these officers, these young officers, are very despondent because they want to do better. They want to fight the crime, but that's the status quo. They know some of their colleagues who are involved in things, but what are you going to do? Snitches get stitches. Who are you going to report to when the man on top himself involved in the foolishness? So when Gary Griffith was Commissioner of Police and he spoke about the issue of the overtime bill being $25 million a month in overtime, and some officers, according to him, were taking home $60,000 to $100,000 a month, when the salary is about $9,000 to $10,000, but taking home $60,000 to $100,000 a month in overtime, and only the junior officers below a certain rank can earn overtime because the senior officers, based on their salary bracket, they can't earn overtime. So what they do is they use the junior officers under them to claim for the overtime. They authorize it. And then when the junior officers get paid, they pay off the boss man who authorized the overtime. He get his cut. And they get their piece, which is in most cases far less than what it is the big man getting. But that's Keith Rowley's fault. And that's Fitzgerald Hines' fault. Right? Yeah, that's their fault. Because when these things happen, they're supposed to know. And they're supposed to know who's doing it, and when they're doing it, and they're supposed to come up with a strategy to fix that. We don't have a senior management and executive management in the police service to deal with these things. So Gary Griffith said he attempted to fix it. And he was able to bring it down by half. And as a result of that, he mashed the corner of quite a few people because he was affecting their monthly income stream. And that is why he was saying certain persons in the police service was against him. Yeah. So when those who are tasked with responsibility to protect and serve themselves, and the citizens who look to them for that support ain't getting it, who get any blame? The Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security can't do any work. They want Hines to come up with a crime fighting plan. So what's the purpose of the top brass in the police service? All these divisional heads, what's their job? What is their purpose? To sign off on timesheets? To roster people? That's what they're getting paid for? It's time to start holding these divisional heads accountable for what is happening in their respective divisions. That's what they need to start doing. And when it is they appear before these committees in the parliament and they hear them talking about, well, we the target or our goal was to achieve this and we didn't achieve this and we didn't achieve that. Why didn't you achieve it? Why? Can't answer. Right? But when it is that you have status quo in the service, and many people have acclimatized themselves to the status quo, and they are now benefiting from the status quo, leave it so. Don't change it. The same thing in the wider public service that the Prime Minister had to speak about a couple years ago, the challenges that his cabinet faces with respect to public sector reform and reform of the public service, that this issue of status quo, because plenty people benefiting from it and it's in their best interest to leave it as is. And when efforts are being made by the political directorate to fix it, to correct it, right, to fix the deficiencies, you're getting pushback from senior public officers because they too eating our food. And I always give the example that the Prime Minister gave with respect to the simple thing of labeling the vehicles for every ministry. So that if it is the average citizen out there sees on a Sunday morning a Ministry of Health, not Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, let's say, or a Ministry of Education vehicle, whatever it is, up on the beach, you know they ain't doing a Ministry of Education work. Right? If you see a Ministry of Social Development vehicle park up in the churchyard Sunday morning, you know they ain't doing Ministry of Social Development work. It's because somebody taking the government vehicle and using it like if it's their own. And then they have the fleet card, they go into the gas station and they presenting the fleet card and filling up the tank. As the Prime Minister said, wear and tear of these public vehicles, and the state has to pay for that. And these people driving around the vehicle, dropping the children to school, taking their wife to the grocery and the market, and all kind of thing, like if it's their vehicle. And the government wants to put things in place so that if this is happening, persons could report it and they could stop it. Because it's costing the state money in terms of gas, servicing the vehicles, the wear and tear. All of these things is money that should be going towards the benefit of the wider citizenry, has to go into fixing these things and paying for these things when people are abusing it. And the Prime Minister said, Madam Speaker, you would not believe the level of pushback that the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, a directive coming straight from the Cabinet, and you have senior public officers dragging their feet, refusing to carry out this directive because they're telling themselves, this is a directive from the PNM government and election coming soon. And if the PNM lose and the UNC come in, that was not a UNC directive. So to hell with that. That cast aside and the status quo continues. And people taking home the government vehicles and driving it around as if it's their own. There is no decal, no brand, no label on it. So people don't even know that that is a government vehicle that is being abused. But as citizens, we wouldn't highlight these things and talk about it. No, we focus on the inconveniencing people. One set a roadblock and they give people ticket and demerit points for smooth tires. And they're giving people tickets and demerit points because your insurance not up to date and your vehicle not inspected and all of these different things. We vex about that. And we're accusing all the politicians of being corrupt. Or we know on the other side they're fully corrupt. But Desmond Kati know what he was talking about when he said, all are we thief. And while that has perhaps been one of the most misconstrued statements ever made, the political landscape of Trinidad and Tobago, that he was speaking when he said, all are we thief, and making reference to the wider society, when he gave the examples of what he meant. Things that still taking place today, decades after Kati made that statement. We see what is happening again with the overtime thing with Wasa, which we will now address. But these are the things he talk about. You're padding the pay sheet. You ain't go to work, but you're going and sign and you bust out. But at the end of the month, your wife come in to jostle the paymaster because she come to collect your pay. You're looking for pay that you didn't earn. You didn't earn. That is thieving. You didn't work for it. But because you are the paymaster in cahoots, so you go put on your name, Ghost Gang. Still, we're still hearing about Ghost Gang to this day. That is thieving. You're robbing the taxpayers because you're not working. An honest day's pay for an honest day's work. But these are not honest day's work. Some earlier, you're supposed to come to work for 8 and leave 4. 9:30, you're now strolling in with a Starbucks cup in your hand and your sada and whatever it is, or your bagel and whatever it is, and you're going to have breakfast. You're required to come into work at 10 to 8, but 9:30, you're now strolling in. Why? Because you know your supervisor or your manager ain't coming until 11 o'clock, so you're safe. And members of the public who sit down there since 8 o'clock waiting for service have to wait until you finish your breakfast and you go and powder up or whatever it is. You smoke a cigarette and whatnot, and you clear your head and you're ready to work now. So if that takes 2 hours, and I have had that experience, go into a certain department in the Board of Inland Revenue, reach there early, 7:45, sit down waiting for the section to open. And when it opened, now when you're going to get this particular service, the person who delivered that inconvenience it, right? So they could sit down outside it. 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, sit down. Whole hour and a half, I sit down there, wait. Person come to work here. 10 o'clock, they not reach. But you're getting paid for 8 to 4, but you come 10 o'clock. And then when your lunch hour is 1 o'clock, you're going to lunch for 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. So if you work 3 hours for the day or 4 hours, you do plenty. Half the day you weren't there. You weren't doing the job that you were paid for. You're thieving. And members of the public are inconvenienced because of that. Because when we have to take time out of our job to come and do these things, but you are no regard. You know why? Because it is allowed. It is encouraged. And if those are the top who supervise in doing it, how you going to tell those at the bottom they can't do it? Right? They following your example. How you could give them a bad, let's call it appraisal for coming to work late and taking lengthy lunch hours when you doing the same blasted thing. This mindset some of them have, well, I have 14 sick days for the year, taking all. You take 14 and an additional 10. And the additional 10 is probably when you were really sick. But all the 14 that you took before, you weren't sick. Right? And that annoys me when I hear people talk, I taken all my sick days, yes? Well, even there for status quo. But we don't talk about these things and the impact it has on productivity. But we complaining, I still working on 2013 salaries and Kamala give me 14%. Right? You got a 14% pay raise. Did we get a 14% increase in productivity? To warrant that pay raise? Or we have the mindset, well, every 3 years we're supposed to get a pay raise. What is that pay raise supposed to, that rise in pay, what is that supposed to be reflective of? I recall when I was in the bank and they're doing appraisals. Yeah, pay raise and so on and things, but these things are tied to that. You want a pay raise every 3 years, nothing wrong with that. But it's not just for the purpose of inflation. They expect to see an increase in productivity. Because when productivity increases, right, then the bottom line for the government also increases. But when it is people have to come and do certain things to come to pay their taxes or whatever, and the line outside door by BIR, people line up on the step all past the water fountain, almost onto Ryson Road. These things turn people off. I come back here next day, yes? And then what? So when this revenue should be coming into the state coffers now, it is delayed because people are being inconvenienced and can't come and stand up on the step for 2 and 3 hours because why? 6 people supposed to work and only 2 show up for work. But we don't talk about these things. But anyway, we'll discuss that on another time. Let me jump into this matter of Wasa. You know, sometimes they say Trinidad is not a real place. Death threats for whistleblowers. Judge, alleged Wasa overtime racket exposed. Alleged overtime racket. But you see, this is just the latest in the saga of overtime racket by Wasa. And again, it ties into what I was talking about just now. The seniors who are tasked with the responsibility for managing these things and who are paid accordingly find themselves wrapped up in this wrongdoing. Some of them are the instigators of this wrongdoing. Right? And so when it is we like to blame the minister because the buck stops with the minister. So anything happen, neonatal deaths in the NICU, the minister had to go. Right? Anything with any issue in any ministry, the minister had to go. The minister has to go. The minister has to go. The buck stops with the minister, but where does the buck start? Where does it start? It can't just appear out of nowhere and end up in the minister's hand. It has to start somewhere and move along the line before it reaches the minister. So between the persons who commit the offense and the minister, a wide gap, management gap. Some of these people, I always say, making tens of thousands of dollars more than the line minister. But we don't ever put no blame on them. Bypass all of them and head up to the minister. The minister must go. Because that is how it's been for a long time in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah? The minister must go and bring an ex-minister and what? And meanwhile, the people at the lower levels, the board, the CEO, the managing director, the director of this and the director of this, who has direct responsibility, first responsibility, we don't talk about them. We want to run straight to the minister and the prime minister, and the government must go. And the only way to fix the challenges in this country is that we must get rid of the government and bring in somebody else. Who is the somebody else? Who is the somebody else? All right. So that was the headline last week. Death threats for whistleblowers, judge as alleged Wasa overtime racket exposed. 2 Water and Sewerage Authority employees and a judge received death threats and are concerned for their lives after whistleblowers revealed an alleged overtime and attendance fraud scheme at the authority's Tacarigua Regional Complex site. I'm almost certain that's not the only site where this thing taking place, right? But they just uncovered it at this site. The judge was warned she could get a Dana Sita Hall. The alleged overtime scheme, ongoing at the Tacarigua site for more than 15 years, cost taxpayers as much as $500,000 a year. Workers are also reportedly being paid for on-work shifts. All are we thief, Desmond Carty. Look at that. How many years now Desmond Carty made that statement back in the 80s? Almost 40 years ago. The same thing that he was referencing exists today, 40 years later. Workers are reportedly being paid for on-work shift, with employees signing in and not performing duties. Whistleblowers allege the scheme occurs at Wasa, at most Wasa sites across the country. See the same thing I said? Wasting millions in public funds. Whistleblowers allege Wasa executives knew about the situation and commissioned audits. An independent intelligence report was also conducted. And it found that the TRC yard site has become a focal point of security concerns due to ongoing issues related to shift manipulation, favoritism and overtime allocation, and escalating incidents of threats, intimidation, theft, and sabotage. But UNC not supporting the whistleblower legislation. Right? Only Rai Ragbir, Member of Parliament for Kamuto Manzanilla, decided to support the government in the passage of the bill. Now they say he's an imakaram. He's a traitor to the cause. But we're seeing here the need for that legislation to come into place. Still, they wouldn't support that. It found that the TRC yard site has become a focal point of security concerns, right? These activities are believed to be orchestrated by individuals using gang-like tactics to exert control over the site's operations. The security situation at the TRC site represents a significant threat to personal safety, operational integrity, and organizational reputation. The report stated that the whistleblowers have a high score of verification and authenticity and can be trusted. When contacted for comment, Minister of Public Utilities Marvin Gonzalez said the matter is currently engaging the attention of the Internal Audit Department of the authority. Shift manipulation, these are the findings of the report. Intelligence indicates that certain individuals within the site management are manipulating shifts to favor specific employees for overtime opportunities, creating an atmosphere of favoritism and unfair practices. Threats and intimidation. Decision makers, supervisors, and managers have reportedly been subjected to threats and intimidation tactics, likely in response to resistance against shift manipulation and favoritism. The situation escalated to the extent that threats were directed towards an external senior judicial executive. This poses a significant risk to the safety and security of the personnel at the site. Theft of equipment and sabotage. Incidents of theft, abuse of equipment, and sabotage have been reported, indicating a broader pattern of misconduct and criminal activity within the site. These actions not only compromise operational efficiency, but also pose a risk to the safety of personnel and integrity of the site assets. And the report called for police intervention. Has that police intervention taken place? I don't know. Whistleblowers claim they were outed to the cabal by a manager. Instead of management disciplining those involved, whistleblowers were reportedly sent on leave on the grounds of being protected and transferred. I met it so more than 10 years ago. Key players are in place making sure it happens because they are involved in all sorts of things. Running women, running blocks. That's how they facilitate these things. There's a whole clique of guys who come together. They decide who will stay home, allowing another person to work for them. And when the next week comes, the person who worked will be relieved while the other person stays home and gets it. You could watch the roster and see a man working for however long. so a man could plan his days to suit how the roster is. There are 4 shifts, A, B, C, and D, and each week a roster is released with each employee assigned to daily shifts of either 7 to 3, 3 to 11, or 11 to 7. However, a group of 13 employees led by one senior employee allegedly manipulated the system, allowing them to rack up overtime payments. The whistleblower said they received their threats, with one of them being forced to make a police report after 2 men threatened him at the Tacarigua site. The whistleblowers are also allegedly subjected to intimidation tactics, with cabal members leaving back extra work for them and leaving the company vehicles without diesel. According to the whistleblowers, the managers believe that as long as enough work is completed, they don't care what happens otherwise. Guardian Media's investigative desk viewed copies of letters and emails sent to Wasa managers and executives. On April 21st, 2024, a whistleblower wrote to his direct supervisor. He referred to a meeting held on March 27, where he complained about the unequal distribution of overtime at the Tacarigua site. The unequal distribution of overtime highlighted in the initial communication raises concerns of fairness and compliance with the Equal Opportunity Act. It is vital for all employees to be given equitable opportunities, especially myself. Failure to do so not only contravenes statutory obligations, but also erodes the trust and confidence that workers should have in the workplace. 4 days later, on April 24th, he wrote again to his supervisor. The long and short of the matter is that both you and names of other managers called were always aware of the issues plaguing this department. But instead of doing what is right to clean up house and rectify these issues, you both took the approach to sweep the issues under the rug. On June 13th, another whistleblower wrote to the Wasa's Human Resource Department, accusing the organization of attempting to turn him from a victim to a villain after he was issued a transfer letter. He said, I was sent on long vacation leave with the promise that the issues would be dealt with. I'm still waiting years after initially raising the issue with names called, notwithstanding the PSA monthly paid representative has chosen to ignore and side with management, as to date, no request has been formally made to meet and discuss the issue, while officers who are to protect the public purse seem to continue to misbehave in public office. By action or inaction, while thousands of taxpayers' dollars continue to find its way in the pockets of the Golden Boys at the Northwest region every month. So it's a lengthy read. Let me just read this last part. In October 2021, a cabinet subcommittee appointed to review the operations of Wasa found that the authority's overtime bill between 2016 and 2020 was $468 million. So we had a $300 million overtime bill in the police service, a $468 million overtime bill in Wasa. One overtime worker made little more than $500,000 in 43 months. Right? So this is nothing new that has been going on at Wasa. Probably the first time that threats have been made to a judicial officer. But let me read this report that was just referenced there, right? This article is dated the 14th of the 3rd, 2021, entitled Prime Minister to Get Reports on $1 Million VSEP Scam at Wasa. So what we're seeing here and what was reported last week is simply an offshoot of a bigger problem that has existed at Wasa for years. And again, I keep making the point, the love of money is the root of all evil. When you apply for the work, they tell you what the salary was and you accepted it. And then you get in there and you see ways that you could manipulate the system to thief. To thief. The government already struggling to get money to pay basic things. But you feel you need to eat a food and drink a juice. And to hell with everybody else. Look at the racket that was taking place down in where it was down on that side by Lengua Indian Walk there. And Marvin Gonzalez, the minister, had to intervene, right? Where for years, people had to be paying hundreds and thousands of dollars to get a truck-bound supply of water. Why? Because the folks at Wasa who were supposed to do what they're supposed to do weren't doing it. And benefiting from that racket at the expense of innocent citizens who are trying to make ends meet. And the minister came in and promised them that within 30 days, the problem would be resolved. He did it in 21 days. Today, these people who were suffering for years from a lack of water and having to be paying thousands of dollars to get water every week, they had to be buying a tank of water. Today, they don't have to pay that because they have water flowing in their lines. But yet still the leader of the opposition, why don't you speak to that issue and condemn it? would go and have a meeting and lie and tell the people, yeah, look, they come and they run pipeline and still only getting no water. And the people sit down and well, what's she talking about? But we getting water every week. 3-4 times a week we getting water. And she coming here to tell us we're not getting water. But she wants to return as Prime Minister, right? That is the problem. A 2016 internal audit into a former senior manager at the Water and Storage Authority has unearthed numerous incidents of misconduct, which directly resulted in the water company hemorrhaging millions of dollars in salaries and overtime. And intent on securing some redress for the past wrongs, Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez said the findings contained in the 74-page report, which was presented to the then acting CEO Alan Poonke, Corporate Secretary Dion Abdul, and Head of Legal Services Paula Maria Fortune, will now be passed to the TTPS for investigation and prosecution. This is 2021, we're in 2024. I wish the police service could call a press conference and members of the media would ask the Commissioner of Police and the top brass of the police to outline for us the steps and the procedures involved in a police investigation. Because when I could see in other jurisdictions, people committing crimes within the space of months or 2 years at best, they are caught, tried, and convicted. And yet still in Trinidad and Tobago, we still have a police investigation that is 10 years old, called Prison Gate, where 2 prominent attorneys are accused, again, according to Desmond Carty, thieving, copying and pasting witness statements to defraud the state. And 10 years later, that investigation is still ongoing. And these lawyers, free to practice their craft, right? They haven't been this bad. Don't know what the Law Association doing. But you see, when it is that you know a number of your members involved in that racket, and in some cases probably even holding senior or executive positions in the association, you're not inclined to say anything because you're not going to institute anything that could be problematic for you, right? So we are not to say, yeah, let them, I'm a friend, I'm a partner. Yeah, I think plenty lawyers do them things, so that's okay, right? Robbing the state, misbehavior, but that's all right, because that's your friend and your partner. The audit report, which was obtained by Guardian Media, was led by Acting Manager of Operational Audit, Leah Guevara, and Sonia Wright, Acting Audit Officer 2. A total of 7 allegations of misconduct were leveled against the former manager. Among them was an allegation that the former manager failed to follow and/or establish practices for the recruitment and rehiring of personnel at a significant financial cost and burden on the authority, and or the engagement of daily paid workers in 2014, 2015 without requisite credentials. Now, the government gives Wasa billions of dollars every year as a subvention, right? Another allegation was that during the same period, the former manager acted in breach of Wasa's mandate to reduce staff pursuant to a voluntary separation package VSEP loan agreement with the Inter-American Development Bank, and that he also misled the management, the board, and the ministry with respect to manpower levels within the authority. So he had to be a real superhero to mislead the board, the management, and the ministry, right? Regarding this allegation, the report found that certain employee files did not contain key documents such as updated employment contracts, police certificates of character, a Wasa application form, any form of national identification, an assumption of duty form, a letter of appointment, or human resources recruitment checklist. In other words, all it had, the employee's file, was just a label on the file with the person's name, and that is it, on a Manila folder. But when you open, right, just like how the UNC left the Treasury, all it had in the Manila folder was linked. Nothing, not even a picture of the person ID card to say, well, this is who it is. Manila folder, label with a name, and you put it in a drawer to fool people, right? Yet another allegation claimed that there was also a lack of transparency in the selection criteria of staff in some areas, as 342 people who did not possess the necessary qualifications, knowledge, skills, or experience had been appointed in an interim arrangement with the operations division. So the people who are supposed to come and fix your pipe when it have a leak have no experience. Probably don't know the difference between a hacksaw and a cutlass. But they hire to come and fix leak and change pipe when you have problems. These appointments saw the overall salary cost of the operations division increase from $130,168,706 to $157,824,269. The audit was undertaken by the PNM government following a 2012 report compiled by Wasa, which showed that an attempt to get funding from the IDB, one conditionality was that the authority undertook an urgent staff rationalization exercise, which was completed by the People's Partnership during their tenure. At the time, Wasa was tasked to get 2,500 of its 5,000 employees out of the organization. And of this figure, 1,000 employees accepted VSEP, which cost taxpayers $360 million. By 2015, however, Wasa's workforce had ballooned to its original 5,000, which triggered Wasa to undertake the audit to find out what had led to the rehiring process. 1,474 new hires. A review of the Human Resource Information System in the audit showed that a total of 1,474 new hires were made by Wasa during 2014-2015 by the senior manager. So you send home 1,000 as a prerequisite for this loan that the government took from the IDB for $360 million, which taxpayers had to pay for, and which we're still paying back, mind you. So when they want to come and talk about where the money gone, and after 9 years, and Rowley spent how much money, and where the money gone, this is one of the many loans that they took, which this administration is now tasked with the responsibility of paying back. $360 million for a VSEP program. And what benefit did the country get? 1,000 persons take the VSEP, but you hire back 1,000 plus an additional 474. Right? So what was the point of that exercise? So, anyway, this comprised 367 monthly paid workers, with 1,107 being daily paid, of which 640 were said to be local laborers. From March 2012, the variance in manpower levels jumped from 428 to 1,763 by September 2015. The audit found that the manager failed to report the actual number of new recruits and also misrepresented the manpower levels in his reports to the Board of Commissioners and Human Resources Committee by repeatedly understating the figures below the actual number. Manager reported inaccurate manpower levels to the board. The audit found that in 2015, the manager knowingly reported inaccurate manpower levels in the VSEP 2012 to 2014 closure report. He reported that the authority's pre-VSEP staffing level of 4,386 declined by 961 employees as a result of persons utilizing the VSEP, inferring total manpower levels at the end of August 2014 to 3,425. This did not reflect the actual manpower levels on the HRIS database of 4,644. These staff levels continued to increase over time to 4,711 in January 2015. The date the VSEP closure report was presented, and to 5,114 by the time he proceeded on administrative leave in November of 2015. It also revealed there was no approved documented guidance established and utilized for the hire of local labor. And in spite of the authority's effort to reduce staff via the VSEP, the manager signed and approved requisitions for the hire of at least 137 out of 640 local laborers hired between 2014 to 2015. Workers without ID cards recruited. A review of total of 13 local labor files showed that 5 persons were recruited, although they only possessed ID cards. This is contrary to WASA's recruitment and selection policy, section 7.7, which requires a candidate to present 7 forms of documents ranging from birth certificate, national IDs, 2 testimonials, academic certificates, NIS and BIR numbers, certificate of good character, and a driver's permit if needed. A review of the HRIS database also indicated that 455 of the 640 local laborers were hired in 2015, with 185 in 2014. Total staff costs, including overtime and retroactive payments for the 2011 to 2013 agreements for these additional employees from the date of hire to July 2016 amounted to $64,317,592.34. Salaries increased by 27 million following the VSEP exercise. So the VSEP exercise was supposed to reduce salaries, but it actually increased 27 million. And nobody picked up that. Nobody picked up that. Not executive management, not the board, not the ministry, because every year, and you see, this is the thing that amazes me. Because every year, these entities are required to send to the ministry, the line ministry, the budgets, how much money they need for this and how much money they need for that. And the minister has to present this to the Ministry of Finance so that it could find its way in the budget, right? So it didn't occur to the minister, but wait. Well, I say Wasa asked for this amount of money to cover staff costs. We borrowed 360 million from the IDB. The cabinet did that. Wasa didn't do that. To conduct a VSEP exercise. So we should be seeing a reduction in the amount of money that Wasa is asking for staffing. But based on what we're seeing here, they're requesting more money. What went on there? How you could have a reduction in the number of employees, which should realize a reduction in the amount of money asking for salary costs, and the salary costs going up, and the minister didn't find that strange. For about 3 years, he didn't find that strange. All right. The audit stated that the tactics employed by the manager in crafting an arrangement pending the approval of the proposed operation structure created loopholes that resulted in an arbitrary upgrade of staff and increased salary costs in the sums of 27,655,000 during the last 2 years. It continued. If continued, this has the potential to incur an additional monthly financial burden of 1.379 million, which can no longer be sustained, the audit stated. This led to an increased financial burden on Wasa. Following the findings, the audit recommended disciplinary action be considered against the senior manager for non-compliance with organizational policies and guidelines. The manager was also found to be in breach of the authority's mandate to reduce staff based on the IDB loan agreement. The audit also discovered the manager authorized excessive and additional commuted overtime hours to specific employees on the special interim arrangement, where up to 60 hours in excess of the staff members' entitlement was approved, resulting in an increase in the monthly staff cost of approximately $153,624, commencing from January 2013 to varying dates in 2016. Excessive overtime paid to union officials. The audit also discovered the manager also retroactively approved the payments of additional commuted overtime hours and special project allowances to 6 members of the Public Services Association, PSA Wasa section, between January 1st, 2013 to December 31st, 2015. These allowances are in excess of these provided to employees of similar ranges and job description and has resulted in an increased monthly financial commitment to the authority of $31,135, the audit stated. From January 2013 to December 2015, the excess allowance totaled $947,307.03. Furthermore, this allowance continued beyond December 2015 to July 2016, totaling $195,302. Additionally, the manager also authorized the payment of overtime foregone by the union officials of the NUGFW Wasa section from January 2011 to December 2014 without seeking approval from the Board and Human Resource Committee. And these payments amounted to $726,718. The audit stated there was no documentation to support that the manager had performed due diligence checks to ensure the accuracy and legitimacy of the requested amount to be remitted to these officials. So PSA officials send in their invoice or whatever it is, and he just approve it, right? So when Watson Duke could have, as head of the PSA at the time, could have come and say, well, yes, he was PSA head at the time, did a live, right? Tell them if they touch Wasa, prepare the morgue. Remember that? If they touch Wasa, prepare the morgue. That was Watson Duke as the PSA president. It further revealed, right, the manager, right. It further revealed the manager authorized the payments of overtime, forgone and institutional strengthening allowances to executive members of the NUGFW Wasa section, totaling $1,426,718 without seeking approvals. The manager is also alleged to have used his office to approve the allocation of a leased motor vehicle, in addition to the receipt of traveling allowances to 3 other managers. In addition, the audit stated that the current operating staff of the entire operations division needs to be reviewed and a determination of action to be taken against the relevant management where approved processes have not been followed and/or irregularities identified. No adherence to the tender process. The manager was also accused of not adhering to the authority's procurement and tendering process in selecting a group life plan with an insurance firm in 2015. Documentation received from the finance division revealed that $2.5 million and $1.123 million had been remitted to the insurance firm, name called, for the period June 2015 to July 2016, which represents employer and employee contributions, respectively, what it stated. I wonder which insurance company that was, boy. I wonder if it's one that is affiliated to somebody who was high up in the UNC. The overall conclusion by the internal audit was, with the exception of granting approval for the receipt of both traveling allowances and leased motor vehicles by members of staff, the evidence provided sufficiently supports the allegations presented against the manager. Contacted for comment yesterday, the Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez, maintained that a significant part of the problem at Wasa is its management, who are not held to account. He confirmed the audit will be referred to the Police Commissioner, Gary Griffith, along with a copy of Wasa's Executive Director, Dr. Lennox Seeley, or copy 2, sorry, for legal advice to see what action could be taken against the manager. An incensed Gonzalez said, "This is management at the highest level. To me, it is organized chaos and mismanagement, and it was feeding a frenzy by people whose objective was not to provide water to the people of this country, but to serve their own selfish interests and needs." Gonzalez said the audit has been consistent with the findings of the report of the Cabinet Subcommittee into the operations of Wasa. So, get it here. Right. He went on to say, right. Let me get it here. Right. This is a scandalous state of affairs. We got a loan from the IDB to reduce Wasa's staff, and the monies were literally misappropriated. The time has come for these things to be brought to an end. So you all understand why it is the UNC did not take, when they could have taken the loan from the IADB, the $7 billion loan to finish the highway to Point Fortin. They opted not to do that, and instead, for the first time, decided to fund it directly from the consolidated fund, from the Treasury. Unheard of. The largest project in this country's history ever to be funded directly from the consolidated fund. And they did that because it's to himself. Because if you take the loan from the IADB, there are certain conditionalities that must be satisfied. As we saw in this case, the IADB say, okay, you want the loan, right? But you had to look at your staffing, because right now your current staff levels is 5,000, and you need to cut that in half. So you get this loan for $360 million to pay off people so that they could go home. You reduce the staffing levels, and by extension, Wasa's monthly expenses, at least as it pertains to human resources, would have been reduced, and they could manage. So when they collecting monies now from the citizens who do pay their bills, that at least it would be able to cover as much of the expenses as possible, so that the amount of money that the government now has to give Wasa as a subvention every month is reduced. That didn't happen. You take the loan for $360 million, you pay a visa, send people home for maybe 2 or 3 weeks or a month, so they get big money, they get a month's vacation, and then they come back a month later, and we ain't done yet. Gonzalez said to his shock, the same staff members who accepted the visa package were rehired under the same job description, but for higher salaries. Let me repeat that. Gonzalez said that to his shock, the same staff members who accepted the visa package were rehired under the same job description, but for higher salaries. Some of the visa workers were also retained as contractors. And they were not trained people. They were not qualified. That is the reason why we have substandard work all over the country, where leaking pipelines are perpetually repaired and they are not properly done. He said the government continues to pay the IDB for the loan that they granted Wasa. Regarding Wasa's soaring staff levels, Gonzalez said that is the reason why the restructuring process is taking place, and we now have to correct the wrongs that took place between 2012 to 2015. The manager, Gonzalez said, was removed from Wasa in 2009. When the Patrick Manning administration was in place, they realized that this man was a blasted crook, and they got rid of him. But he was brought back into the organization in 2012 by the PP administration, and he did what he wanted. Right? But put him back. Yes, Rowley must go. This wicked and evil PNM must go. And if things are to be fixed in this country, we need to bring back Kamla Prasad-Bissessa and her team. But I will read it again. The manager, Gonzalez said, was removed from Wasa in 2009. So they tell him, hey, pack your bags, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back. And then the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago decided that they wanted to get rid of Patrick Manning and his administration in 2010, which they did. In came the PP, and Mr. Man, who was sacked by the PNM administration, he was brought back into the organization in 2012 because he has skills that nobody else has. So they went and headhunt and find this man. Yes, we need this man to come back. Bring him back. And he was allowed to do whatever the hell he wanted to do. Guardian Media was able to confirm the manager was suspended a few years ago, allegedly for misleading the board, the IDB, and the ministry to assess staffing levels arising out of the visa program. The manager was sent on paid administrative leave until his suspension 1 year later, and he acted against the interest of the authority. Right? You know what's interesting about that? Under the People's Partnership Administration, Kamla Prasad-Bissessa decided to create extra ministries. As you know, there were a number of waste of time ministries because we had to create jobs for the boys. So there were several ministries that we never heard of before, and thank goodness the PNM came in and those ministries were done away with, such as the Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration. Don't know what the hell that ministry did. That was led by Roger Samuel, the Member of Parliament for Rima. Don't know what it did, but let us do a comparison. The Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration, as opposed to the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. Which one has given us greater utility? Foster Cummins and the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service? Or Roger Samuel, Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration? I put that there for you to do your assessment. We also had the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources, under which Wasa fell. Because prior to the PP coming into office, you all remember, Wasa was under the Ministry of Public Utilities, as it is today. But Prasad-Bissessa, in her wisdom, felt that Wasa needed to be placed under a special ministry, and she created the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources. And the main utility that was under that, the main entity that was under that ministry was Wasa. Led by who? Ganga Singh. The same Ganga Singh who dropped pipe, and more pipe. But I can't tell already the size of that pipe because I ain't see it yet. And the only pipe I know is Dr. Bissessa pipe. That same Ganga Singh. Right? Remember, Kamla, that was her statement. She can't tell you the size of the pipe because she hasn't seen it yet. But apparently, well, if you haven't seen it yet, it tells me that you had intentions of seeing it. But okay, that's not my business. But he wasn't the only minister. The then member of Parliament for Kuva North, Ramona Ramdial, was also a minister in that ministry. So you had two ministers in that ministry. And all this thievery and bubble was allowed to take place under Wasa, under not one, but two ministers. Right? Two ministers. That was allowed to take place under. So one minister wasn't enough to run the ministry. We needed two. And with two very competent ministers, a loan for $360 million was taken from the IDB to conduct a visa exercise to reduce Wasa's staffing. And instead, Rather than Wasa staffing go down, it increased. Right? And this administration today is still paying that loan. 2 ministers. Now, this guy wasn't the CEO of Wasa. He wasn't on the executive of Wasa's management. In the grand scheme of things, based on his position vis-a-vis the senior management, he was a lower level functionary. So how was he able to do all of these things without anybody knowing? He had to be a Houdini. You had to be real good to do all these things. The amount of sleepless nights you would have had to undertake if you alone was doing this to cover up that. So it tells you he wasn't in that alone. He was the scapegoat. Because I can't see how for 2-3 years you conducted a visa exercise. People were supposed to go home. And instead, Wasa staffing levels went up and senior management didn't know that. Senior management didn't pick up on that. The human resource management, the human resource department didn't pick up on that. No wonder why it had a fire in Wasa shortly after this administration came in. And certain critical documents went up in flames. But they would have you believe that this man acted alone. How the hell he could have acted alone to do all these things? Why would he be hiring people who he don't even know? So everybody, as Marvin Gonzalez said, everybody who got visa, all of them came back in the same positions that they occupied prior to the visa, and this time they came back with higher salaries. How could that happen? So this man had the power. He's not the chief executive officer. He's not on the senior management of Wasa, but he was able to authorize higher salaries. So he could have said, I pay this man, I increase that. That's how it does work. He authorized higher salaries, but I thought that was the job of the union. The union's supposed to negotiate with management for these salaries. But it doesn't seem that took place. He had the power to increase people's salary just so, at the snap of a finger. And he is not on the executive management. He is not senior management. He is not the CEO. He is not the board. And the board's supposed to sign off on them things. Because when the union negotiate with management, because as far as I know, that is how people get increased salaries, right? Management and the unions negotiate whatever, or the CPU, as the case may be, and whatnot, and stuff. But it seemed none of that took place. This guy, who was fired, who was sent back in from Wasa, brought back in 2012 by the People's Partnership, and he hired people that he don't know what benefit was there to him, right? Most people, when they hire or they give a man a work, is because, yeah, doing it as a favor to somebody who know the man, whatever. But I am pretty sure you did 1,474 favors, or you know this 1,474 persons that you decided to do favors for all of them and approve pay raises for all of them too. And you did that, knowing full well that would result in an increase in Wasa's monthly salary bill. And you thought nobody would notice that? Management, senior management, your bosses wouldn't notice that, the board wouldn't notice that, the minister and the ministry wouldn't notice that? That when Wasa, because who is responsible for making the request to the minister? Who is responsible for that? Right? It's not him, it's not he sending, because when the minister has to come in parliament, when the budget is read to defend, in the big yellow book when they're going through. Subhead number 2, line item number so and so. I am seeing here that last year, Wasa took a loan for 360 million, and that was to facilitate a VSEP program. And it was supposed to reduce Wasa's staff complement by 1,000. But I am seeing here that Wasa's monthly salary bill has actually gone up instead of gone down. Could the minister explain that? That happened? That was supposed to happen. So the minister didn't punish him because when the question is posed to him, he has a permanent secretary sitting next to him. And if he can't, so the permanent secretary was supposed to say, well, look, oh, this is what happened. So explain that to me in a PS. Why is Wasa's monthly salary bill higher than what it was before the visa? That not making sense. So the cabinet wasn't concerned. The cabinet got the bright idea to reduce Wasa's staff complement, to pay VSEP, But there was no due diligence, no follow-up on the part of the cabinet to find out, well, was this done? Because if it was so important, it would have come to a cabinet note. Cabinet would have met and discussed this in detail. Whoever would have had the responsibility to negotiate with the IADB, the amount of the loan, what the interest rate would be, and all of these different things. This is not 2 pennies. This is not $2 million they're borrowing or 36 million. This is $360 million. This is a big deal. The government would have had to work out, well, okay, this is how much we're going to pay for the month. This is when the loan would start to be repaid, and all of these different things. So that was a serious issue. So you borrowed $360 million to facilitate a visa in Wasa, and for 3 years you didn't know that the visa didn't take place, or that it took place, and then everybody was rehired. Well, put them back. That is good governance. That is good governance. Put them back. Yes. If anybody could convince me that this guy didn't act alone, that this didn't go all the way up to who get cut back and kicked back. Any police investigation? Any minister get locked up? This guy got locked up. As you heard the minister, he passed the file to Gary Griffith. The audit report to Gary Griffith. You ever hear the UNC talk about our audit report? No. But they were all up in the audit report from PanoTrin, the internal audit report that they say identified fake oil. They went into that. $100 million in fake oil, but $360 million in fake VSEP. They ain't interested in that. No talk on that. They don't want no investigation into that. No interest. Because as I always say, under them, less is more and more is less. So $100 million was more than $360 million. So they weren't concerned about that. How we're paying, what went wrong, who is culpable, they ain't concerned about that at all. But we're concerned about the $100 million in PanoTrin, no fake oil. Oh yes, we're interested in that. Talk about that for years, and the supporters still talking about that. You hear them talking about this? No. And so all these millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions are going into paying salaries for the last how much years that should have been going into fixing pipeline and should have been going to being spent on improving the water delivery services. You know, the things that this administration has been doing since they came into office, especially under Marvin Gonzalez, where they over 20-something new booster stations. So some places where for years they were experiencing low water levels, people who living up on hill barely getting any water, the water pressure low, people complaining about that for years. They had 3-4 tanks but could only fill one, and now water busting pipe, no complaints. The volume or the number of protests we used to be seeing for water, people burning tire, we have no water, we have no water, we want water, Wasa, placard. How many of that you see in these days? You know why that has subsided? Because this administration, especially under Marvin Gonzalez, booster stations being commissioned. Over 100 and something new wells have been dug. Communities all over the place, as small as 300 people, booster stations are being commissioned so that these people could get a better water supply. That is why when the misleader, the opposition, went down into Lingua Indian work to lie and say that the people ain't getting water even though pipe run, and they had to call her out on her folly. That's why 600 extra votes, because it's apparently you still have some people in the UNC who have integrity. Some, right? Who will call out the leadership on the foolishness. But when we left office, 64% of the population was getting water 24/7, and now that has dropped to 16%. Dropped to 16%, and the amount of protests dropped to what, 10%? Really? So people stop protesting for water, Jessa? They ain't getting water, but they're not protesting? Right. But put them back. But we see that the unions, the PSA and the NUGFW were also complicit in this fraud. That senior members of the union sections in Wasa turned a blind eye to what was going on. Because why? They eating our food in overtime, where one of these union officials got over $500,000 in overtime. But who looking out for the well-being of the citizens? Who looking out for the well-being of the organization? They don't care, because our work is to represent the workers and represent ourselves. I would love to find out. The former head of the PSA, whose wife has a company that was getting millions of dollars in contracts from Wasa. Her company ever got any love to know somebody else? Because if you're so good at what you do, right? Now, mind you, Wasa have all these employees, right? Over 5,000 employees. But you had to hire a private company for them to hire private people to do the work that the 5,000 employees, or at least 14 to 1,500, or maybe 2,000 of the employees supposed to be doing. So you bring back people who got visa, pay them increased salaries to do our work, to fix pipeline and all of these things. But then you paid over $16 million in contracts to a private company to do the same work that you have people on your payroll receiving salary to do. Tell me how that making sense. How that making sense? Or is it the case that this same private company was probably using some of the same Wasa labor to do the work, right? When they're not working, or when they're on the off days, right? Hire them. So they getting paid from Wasa, and then they getting paid from the private company too to do the same work that Wasa paid them to do. So when they're supposed to be doing Wasa work, what are they doing? Running woman, as the article said. Now, yeah, Wasa paying me for that, but we ain't doing that for Wasa anymore. We're going to do it for this company. The boss man said, right? And who was giving them those contracts? Did they employ proper procurement strategies, or did they follow the procurement process? That this one company was getting all of these contracts to fix pipeline and stuff. So one to the department and Wasa, whose responsibility was to fix pipeline, had so much pipelines across the country that needed fixing that the amount Wasa's 3,000 or 3,000 or how many ever employees whose job it is to do that, the daily paid workers and so on, who ride in the truck and who going down in the trench, that Wasa didn't have enough employees to do that, so they had to pay millions to this company. Anybody ever did an audit to find out if this company had any other clients beside Wasa? But we heard the man whose wife owned the company tell us a couple of weeks ago he broken. He bankrupt. He can't pay his credit card. Credit card bill is $130,000. The bank threatening to take his home and all that. He can't pay mortgage. And he need his pension from PSA. Because he have no money. So wherever he living in Trinidad, plus the 3-story mansion he living in Tobago, and the big vehicle that he driving, the Range Rover, Vela, and so on that he driving, he can't pay for that. I need my pension. Thing tough. So how come you're not getting any more contracts under this administration? All of a sudden, Wasa doesn't need your services anymore? But they needed your services between 2010 to 2015. Yes. But somehow, since this administration came in, Wasa magically found a way to utilize their own internal resources to do the work that your company, your wife company, was doing. So we ain't need you no more. Now we fixed that problem. We couldn't fix it between 2010 to 2015. We didn't have the intellectual capacity to not need your services. But since 2016, since Marvin Gonzalez and so on, since this administration came in, all of a sudden, Wasa realized, no, we don't need the services of this company anymore. So the millions that were paid, yeah, that had to stop. That had to stop. Who facilitated that? Who was in office between 2010 to 2015? Keith Rowley was the Prime Minister? Yeah. Marvin Gonzalez was the Minister of Public Utilities. Yeah. Yes. We were talking about waste of time ministries. The largest cabinet in this country's history. 33 members of cabinet. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. Her administration. The Ministry of Works and Transport today, right? She split that in two. So you had the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, and then the Ministry of Transport separate. And the minister at the Ministry of Transport, the company that he owned, right? That he had to relinquish to family members to become a minister, got $43 million in contracts to service the water taxis while he was Minister of Transport. But nothing wrong with that. That's okay. No, it's nothing wrong with that. Behave yourself. The man is the minister here, but he's not responsible for the day-to-day management of the company. Okay? But the person who we lie down next to in the night, that person responsible for the day-to-day management of the company. And that company is getting contracts, millions of dollars in contracts, from the ministry that is led by the man she's lying down next to every night. Nothing untoward there. That's perfectly all right. Because remember, they are the de facto defenders of proper procurement. And this government didn't want to proclaim the procurement legislation because they want to get contracts to their friends, family, and financiers. Yeah. But put us back in office. All right. Proper procurement. Where was the procurement here? Any heads roll? So is it any wonder that the day that we read that story last week, and as the article said, that happening all over the country. It's just the mark bus for that particular site. That particular site. So what about all the other places where it's happening? And I'm certain that isn't the only public utility company in which that is happening. Right? Because I'm certain whatever, anyway, let me not go there. A word to the wise is sufficient. Put them back. That's good governance. Your question, you ever hear them call us Sunday morning, waste the time press conference to speak about that issue? No. We heard last week, a couple days ago, Vincent Nelson, the man who bust the mark on Ram Logan and Ramdeen and exposed the illegal briefs racket. He lost his appeal to have his conviction overturned, right? And the judge basically said, look, based on what we see in here, this appeal doesn't have a reasonable chance of success. So he's now appealing to a 3-member panel. But the judge basically said, you're wasting time. Remember, this is the individual who was supposed to testify against these 2 men, is going to withhold his testimony until the outcome of his appeal. So he already lost the first leg. So now he wants to appeal to a panel of 3 judges. And based on what is contained in that report, more than likely, that appeal too is going to go the same way. But the judge made a very significant point on more than one occasion, that notwithstanding the representations that Mr. Vincent Nelson has made in his appeal, talking about the indemnity and all of that, at no point in time has he recanted what he said. At no point in time, in trying to have his appeal, his conviction overturned, at no point in time in his representations that his attorneys have made, have they said that he wishes to recant the statements that he made with respect to the allegations made against Mr. Ramdeen and Mr. Ram Logan. So he's sticking to his story. He is sticking to his testimony that he paid kickbacks, 10% kickbacks, to Mr. Ram Logan, with Mr. Ramdeen as the conduit. He has not recanted that. He has not changed his story, right? And he can't do that primarily because he provided evidence that incriminates himself. He gave the police, first of all, he went to the police. He was the one who came and volunteered to offer information. The government didn't go to he. He was the one who came to Paris when it is that he heard this administration coming into office. And you will recall that in the lead up to the 2015 general election, this administration was making the point that should they win the election in 2015, that they intend to conduct an audit of all legal briefs that would have been given out under that administration. And Mr. Nelson decided to take in front before front take him. And he came and offered information. Because he realized, well, if this government going after, they go find out. And I could make a jail. So let me go on and let me take in front and turn state witnesses. Let me take a plea deal. He came and offered. He gave the police his bank statements. He gave the police receipts of the wire transfers where he sent the money to Ramdeen account. He did that. So you can't come now and recant because the police already have the evidence. So even if you come to recant and then they charge you and this matter has to go before a jury, the police have the evidence that you gave. How are you going to refute that? You gave them the the receipts for the wire transfers. Where when I say they make up that? You get them copies of your bank account showing where. So how the police get that? You confessed. So the evidence is clear. It is there. Is it any wonder? You heard anybody from the UNC talk about that development? But I bet you, if it had gone the other way, and Mr. Nelson had won his appeal, you would have heard him. As soon as the newspapers, as soon as that news broke, Prasad Bissessa would have dispatched, she would have sent out a press release one time calling on the former Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi to resign forthwith or for the Prime Minister to fire him, and for the police and the Integrity Commission to launch an immediate investigation into Faris, even though the judge said the actions of Faris Al-Rawi, then as Attorney General, was not fatal to this case. Yeah, it was foolhardy. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the price of bread. Right? But we will deal with that in more detail on another day. But it is instructive to note that nobody from the UNC has spoken to that issue. Nobody posted that article on their Facebook page, but as they love to post articles, not Munilal, not Kamla, not David Lee, none of them. But as I said, I can't check Jayanti's Facebook page, but I'm sure for those of you who could check it, because she and block all there, if you go and check it, you will see that she hasn't posted that. Why? Because it didn't go in their favor. But had it gone in their favor, we would have heard them. Now, $100 million of taxpayers' money has to be paid to Mr. Nelson. Right? And that is what they bribed Mr. Nelson to do. We would have heard about all of that. That would have been, if they have Monday night forum tomorrow night, which they probably don't, I don't know if it is the leader of the opposition in the country, if she out of the country, or whatever as the case may be. But if they have Monday night forum tomorrow night, bet your bottom dollar that would have been a leading topic. They would have saved it for her. She will talk about that. No mention. None whatsoever. Right? But I bet you, if in the 3-panel appeal, if he's successful, they will talk plenty about that though. Plenty. There will be licks, bois, for Paris. But anyway, in the interest of time, I wanted to address as well this development in Tobago with the Secretary for, what is infrastructure? Which, I can't remember, settlements and something, Ian Pollard. And with respect to these questionable hiring processes such that he is now under investigation by the Integrity Commission. But we're going to talk that on Tuesday. And we will save that for Tuesday. 7701763. Now when I jump on that, they go people's part connect. But the bell ease them up now. Ease up. Ease up. When him so, they will get no mercy from me. None. Get it said. So Nicola, give me 1 sec. Where is it right? Right, we good, so good. Hello, good afternoon.
How are you, my darling?
Hi, I am good.
You know something with UNT people? Their brain is bankrupt. I don't know if the brain tell about condensed when it was born or after. It has some who comments. Who see him as a rapist.
Yes.
I told him that he's my father, husband, and father. When they can't come and actually come with light. So Jerome Cummings, I call you out. You are the reason that birth control was invented. Safe sex be practiced because of you. Please, Steve Abri, you as dotish as you look. Dominic, do you know who the fifth kidnapper in this country?
What's that?
Kidnapper killer? It was 1980. I did research. He kidnapped a child who's 3 years old traveling 5 times, but they don't do crime. So little me, every day will jam them and show them who was the first kidnapper killer. Then you have Boise Singh, TNT's only prolific mass killer, but we don't do crime. The lady in the States, right? 500 of charges was overturned because she thought she was the best thing from Trinidad, but we don't do crime. When you want to talk UNC people, make sure I don't investigate things. So every day, out of bad mind, on vacation time, I will jump with my matic. Ramleen, Logan, I hope your days in court short, but your sentence in prison is long. Right? Some things are time barred. They can go back and investigate. They drag that thing on for purpose to see PNM jam them. But you know what? You jam yourself. If you were honest, you would be in trouble. You became loyal for purpose, not because of justice, like what you know. They fill your pockets. But the money you have, I tell you, buy some pampers, buy yourself. Buy the pen, buy wet wipes, and what you could. Because your rear end will do it with goose pepper, Congo pepper, like the baptismal, and a tank of water. Don't have a good day. Bye-bye later.
Thank you. Say good afternoon to Mother Tunapuna. Hello.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Hey, Jenny.
Good afternoon, Doctor, and tuning into facts and seven things. I see a conversation here. They're saying that they banned Jenny Unex. I've been banned from every platform on the TTP. Tobago Rose, JP Harper, the top fella, anybody with a TTP page a ban. But only the one banned Dominic, because Dominic was very diplomatic in his response to them. I am not. So they ain't gonna have me there at all. With regards to the Wasa situation, the president of PSA at the time stayed there for 12 years in PSA, and then he pardoned now in the PSA. And it's not any wonder when you listen to what has happened in Wasa, you see exactly what has happened to PSA, because that's how they ran PSA extension of Wasa, and now PSA is being run extension of the UNC.
Yes.
So we ain't going nowhere far, and somebody asks why we continue to pay our dues. It is hurtful to still pay, but you know what it does? It gives us the opportunity to vote this November coming to get a proper team inside. If it doesn't happen this November, or for the latest next year, February, because that background president couldn't utilize the constitution that says even if the election date is November the 25th, that he has a 90-day window in which to call the election. So we're looking at he might utilize that and take it to February. So we'll pay our dues until we could get them out of PSA. It is hard, but we'll keep doing it.
But that's in the Constitution, John?
Yeah. Okay. We have every 4 years the election is due on November the 25th. However, you could utilize the 3 months extension. Yeah. Okay. So we're looking at they might carry it to next February. We'll wait to see, but by month end they are supposed to have an election committee up and running for us to treat with the list and all that. That is a part of also for election committee, election rules. So we'll see what happens then. I wanted to briefly on Roger. I see that Roger, he's burning pictures of Dr. Rowley and whatever, but we must remember this is the same man had a mannequin of Kamla Persad-Bissessar when she was the Prime Minister and had the words to say about her. This is the same man who would have said that Kamla and she government dealt patriotic industries a fatal blow from acquiring PetroTrin. This is the same man who tell Kamla Persad-Bissessar if she don't come out publicly and say whether she supports the union getting PetroTrin or she don't support what Munilal would have said in Parliament when he would have said something the fact that is underhand deals that Roger and them were involved in with the trying to acquire PetroTrin. He said he given her 48 hours. I know she will come out and talk. He was afraid and he will continue to bring out the corruption of the UNC, that was his language. Now this man today is telling us that he's in talks in UNC and it's going well. I want to tell Roger can't even call you a dog because a dog is loyal, is a man's best friends, and it is useful. You is a parasite. Because you just hold on and try to suck the oxygen or for whatever host you find will take you wherever you need to go. And when it doesn't work, you jump to the next one. He's a parasite. And I want to ask OWT members something here. Ansel Roger, I don't know what other constitutions say, but Ansel Roger is over 60. He works nowhere. He doesn't have a bargaining unit. How could he still be the president of OWT? You don't have nobody else. There's Ozzy Merrick and this one. Nobody else to challenge him and put new life into the OWT. You only need to hold on to this parasite. Only dragging, only don't have one, only looking like only headless. I am sure George Weeks, based on his revolutionary stance, must be crawling in the grave. I am sure Uriah Buzz Butler and all those men and women who have fought in the oil industry to make oil workers or the energy sector workers respected, coming from where they came from, people like Elmer Francis was a part of that fight, Daisy Quick and others. They must be so shame all here. And I will continue to say, Kamla Persad-Bissessar has emasculated them man and them around she. Roger is one of them. She just take all the balls, put it in a bag and show it now and then follow the field all his man. Roger is a disgrace to the union movement. And you mentioned something about public officers not working. There are some, of course, isn't, but you know who I blame for that? I don't blame the union. The union is not there to make sure public officers are working. The union is there to make sure that all of the public officer is entitled to the rights and benefits in the workplace. They are able to get that based on the Constitution, based on the Service Commission and all that. If a worker or a public officer is not performing, what happens to the supervisor of that public officer? What happens to the management team or the management division in that officer? Because that officer has to have a appraisal done every year. But more than that, every 3 months or every 4 months, there's supposed to be a quarterly done on that officer. So the officer will know whether or not they met the targets, whether they understand the task and duty responsibility. If they have any issues, it could be addressed at those levels. But if management don't do that and meet you when the end of the year, 12 months, and meet for you for half an hour, hustling up to tell you about all the wrong things you do for the whole year that you know nothing about, and then they give you a bad grade, you know why the union will step into that? Because you did not let the officer know that you had a problem with the work performance. You can't just simply say they should know. If they're supposed to reach out for 8 and they come at 9 every day, yes, they know they're supposed to reach for 8. But if you're not telling them, not as management, as human beings, they will continue to come for 9 o'clock. If they're not performing their duties and you're not doing anything, yes, they're supposed to know. But if you as management not saying nothing and holding them to account, they will continue the behavior. So the unions are not responsible for that. That's one area we don't take responsibility for. We take responsibility, the permanent secretary, heads of department, and the supervisors who are not doing their duty when it comes to administrating the rules and regulations of the workplace, because the permanent secretary is in charge of the ministry, not the minister. The minister is just the politician who has oversight, and he brings policies from the cabinet or the government to be implemented into the public service via the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary has to find ways that is not in contravention to the Civil Service Act and all the other acts that govern public officers. That is where the buck stops. So if members and public officers in our ministry is not performing well, look to the head, look to the permanent secretary, and let the permanent secretary call in all the heads of the department to find out why. And as I leave, that is a reason why unions, there's a circular out 1972, I think circular 1 in 1972, that make it legal with JCCs, that joint select committees, staff size, are to be implemented in all ministries, because at that level, the JCC, the staff side is made up of public officers who are PSA members, and they meet every 3 months or every 2 months, whatever the schedule of PS is. The PS of the ministry sits as the chairperson, but all has a department, and the union, the staff side, are able to bring issues that members are having, and it is dealt with at that level. So that is another thing that is missing sorely in the public service, and that is one other way we could catch workers who are not probably performing the best way, or probably management who are not doing the right thing. But if they don't have no JCC, if anything goes and anything happens, so that's another dimension that I wanted to add. But Roger, he is a parasite. That is my opinion. Thank you, Dominic, and you'll have a blessed week ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Well, the SWWTU showed them how to do it. They got rid of Anizet, so OWTU, where is Errol McLeod? Ever since Errol McLeod demitted office as Minister of Labor under the former administration, the man who once hosted the OWTU Speaks, where is he? Is he still a resident in Trinidad and Tobago? Does he have an opinion on the labor movement in Trinidad and Tobago and the labor environment, the industrial relations environment in Trinidad and Tobago? Is he pleased with what his successor is doing, what his successor did to the OWTU? Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how are you?
I am good, man.
You don't know where this pension money was quiet. I actually did. So you don't worry about it. Yeah, not to say now.
Yes.
What have you noticed from it? For example, you notice that when these media houses put up big stories on the headlines, and the truth come out, you notice that they're quiet. You know, I will give some examples. Right? When I say the story about the thing with the LMCS, they talk about who the authorities charge. You know that the manager authorities charge?
Yes.
How come I ain't starting with them? As if what they mentioned on the back pages of the newspapers. Why they not? I'm expensive. Are the alliance with you? But they make it on the page alliance. I'm not following up with that story. It's just something that the investigators, the newspapers, and the other side know what's going on with that lady. How come they don't follow up with that story again? And then the situation with a certain MP, I don't know, kidnapped from that. They don't follow up with that story either.
Nope.
It's fire too. So you expect anything to come out over into the right one? The media moving like those media houses in the United States where they want you like to step down.
Yep.
And they hype them. They don't see a pattern.
Yeah.
One of the UNC MPs talking about tax cuts. Like a Republican. I could have sworn that the UNC is a tax cut to the Republican Party. Yeah. What probability is that man become the president of the United States? That's what the paper now. Right?
Yep.
But look at the pattern. Certain things in this country they're talking about. They just take that story and then everything quiet down. Nothing about what going on with the MCA, what they're doing with the government. But it's not that American character has been charged.
Yes.
Right? You're not talking about the news people that they're the other reasons. You're not talking about that story too. And something I noticed that you had some information to the UNC Cabal that there's an MP who has interest in a firearm company.
Yes, I saw that.
How come they're talking about community? They're not talking about that. So I give a good years.
You too, sir.
The benefit for the drug card from the UNC. That's why you have to bring a story up to the forefront again.
Thank you. But as the Minister of Finance says, the media is doing the UNC's work for them. So, of course, they're not going to delve deeply into these stories. Even the talk show hosts are not doing that. Right? So, the talk show hosts would like to call people sycophants. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, Dominic, this is my happy day. This is the first time since listening to your program that I get an opportunity to be live with you.
Welcome.
So I congratulate myself.
Yes.
All right, short matter. I came into your program late this morning. I was only able to hear a part of the recording of some conference or whatever it is that was done yesterday, I believe, with Beverly Ramsey Moore.
Yes, she was on I-95.
The president of PanoTrinbago.
Yes, she was on I-95 yesterday.
Okay, she was detailing certain things.
Yes.
And a few weeks ago, this same land to take as a land story, however the amount came up. And it was being debated in different circles.
Yes.
And from what I've been able to gather is that a certain two presenters on another station, right? They were saying that they are in possession of a lease. At least the purported document of a lease. Because in order for you to be in possession of something, it has to be in paper.
Yes.
All right. Now, I think it was a few days before that, there was a debate in, I don't know if it's, I think it was Parliament. All right. And I heard a contribution from David Naki. And then subsequent to that, I heard a presentation from the Minister of Sport. And he was refuting or rebutting everything that David Naki said.
The Minister of Tourism. The Minister of Tourism, Randall Mitchell.
Randall Mitchell, thank you very much for the correction.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So from that, what I gathered, that PanoTrinbago never had a document, any paper document stating that they have legal authority to possess the piece of land that is in contention.
Correct.
So based on that, and that statement was made in Hansard in the Parliament. So based on that, seeing that these two gentlemen on the other station, I think you call them Captain Clueless, and I call them Dumb and Dumber.
Yes.
Right? Based on their presentation, what the Minister of Tourism said, he is in breach of Parliament because he lied. Because they have a lease. They are in possession of a lease. Now, to back up the minister's claim, Beverly Ramsey Moore is saying that PanoTrinbago never had any documents.
Correct, yes.
So, by extension, what Dumb and Dumber is saying, they are bringing that station into disrepute.
Long time.
What is the owner of that station doing about that?
Nothing.
Because his license could be in jeopardy. Because you have two presenters on your station blatantly lying about legal matters.
Yes.
And yet still after that, you come and bring annex. This place so corrupt. That is so corrupt that he bring on another co-host in the morning. Come on, look. I want Trinidad and Tobago to listen carefully to how that co-host, how he phrases his action, how he phrases his words, and see exactly where he is going. That presenter talking about that co-host talking about corruption and corruption and corruption. I would like him to come on the station and say, between 2010 and 2015, how contracts for refurbishing and painting the buildings in Port of Spain was being handed out. I want him to do some research and come and tell the people. If he was in receipt of any one of the contracts and how we come to get it. But I know there are other presenters have to come on. So you all have a blessed Sunday. Trinidad and Tobago, let us be careful with who we are lining ourselves with. Go with tried and trusted. Not who try to bust the country. Have a blessed one.
Thank you, sir. Tried and tested. Indeed. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to you, Mr. Romain.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to the callers, the listeners on this Sunday afternoon, facts and stubborn things. But you know, the last day, I get up kind of late. So this time, I get up in June. Right? Well, on the heels of you're talking about Wasa and all the corruption that taking place, not now, but long time, right? This is a little article I would have pulled up on my laptop here and I would have saved it. It dated on February 25th, 2021. Right? Corruption, the scourge of TNT. The Water and Sewage Authority Wasa 10 billion debt nightmare is one of many drains on our economy. Every state enterprise suffers from inflated procurement costs, kickbacks, nepotism, low productivity, overstaffing, and the sale of its assets at a fraction of its market value. Without procurement oversight, every government transaction is plagued by evil. On February 13, 2015, the Hansard showed the then Public Utilities Minister, Ansel Antoine, stated Wasa had a deficit of 1.6 billion in 2017 at a Public Accounts Committee meeting which examines Wasa audited financial statements. It was revealed that this debt increased by 5.3 billion, and yet in May, 4 years later, we are told that Wasa debt doubled to 10 billion. In 2015, Public Accounts Committee made 26 concrete proposals for Wasa reconstructuring. The public has a right to know what happened to these recommendations. Were they ever implemented? If not, why not? Dr. Roddy is called upon to be honest. He must come in and explain how the debt increased from 16 billion to 1.6 billion to 10 billion in 6 years of leadership. What has happened in the past 6 years, Prime Minister Rowley? So you see what they're trying to do is, Dominic, they're trying to flip the script. Right? Because in the last 5 years that Dr. Rowley was there, they make it believe that all this corruption thing on that place under Dr. Roddy. But prior to Dr. Roddy assuming office, who was there? Who was there in 2010 to 2015? Who came and said what? We're going to give water for all in 1995. Up to this day, people still catching the ad, uncle and nenen. To get money, to get water. Right time stuff, the minister Gonzalez, who went down Mondiablo, Queen Mondiablo, and gave the people the commodity. You have an opposition leader going on to speak Kubar in people's face and people's head to give the perception that the government tried to hold all for all your vote in the by-election last month. I continue, Dominic. This one dated July 13, 2018. Calco director, former Wasa manager charged with corruption. A director of Cal Company Limited, Calco, Michael Arjun, and the former head of logistics and procurement at the Water and Sewage Authority, Wasa, Wendell Diaz, were each granted bail in a sum of $250,000 when they appeared before a Port-au-Prince magistrate during their appearance. Neither men were called upon to plead as the charges were laid indictably. It is alleged that in December 2013, Diaz corruptly accepted a sum of $30,000 from Arjun as a reward for doing an act in relation to his principal affairs, namely the award of contracts to the Cell Calco Limited. Arjun was charged with corruptly giving Diaz the sum of $30,000 as a reward for the reward for the award of contracts to Calco. They were both charged by officers of the ACIB, that's the Anti-Corruption Investigations Bureau, and the sought advice of the DPP, right? And they were subsequently charged and appeared before the court on that same day, right? So, Dominic, in all that I said yesterday, it is nothing new in Wasa as we speak. Yeah, that's going on years, because normally you don't see 15, 20 workmen in one little contract on the road. And it's like, if it's a little hole that they get, Dominic, you don't see all these men. So what is the purpose of all of them doing one little road digging in the road? And I just observe all of that, and you see, as Uncle Les said yesterday, this country is too corrupted. It has a lot of corruption going on every nookie and cranny in this country, everywhere you look. And then the first thing people want to blame is the government. When you like too much of freeness, you just go at any lengths to get it. If it's a thief or the fraud state, you will do it, right? And then before I go, I just have one little more thing is, let me remind our listeners, right? This is a listing of the achievement under the partnership administration from 2010 to 2015. I digress. Billions have been carted away from the treasury, and yet no one has protested. Several persons have become overnight millionaires and billionaires with taxpayers' money, and they have not protested. You have not protested? Section 34. 400 million Lysol scandal, $549 million EMB scandal, 6 million fire truck debacle, 7 million helicopter gas bill, 130 million upgrade and penal recreation ground, 30 million cost to build a single unit school in DB with CPF labor, 1.1 billion advance to SIS, 1.4 billion in legal fees to UNC AG, former AG office, 1 million in performance bond gone, 500 million TT cut notes unaccounted for, NGC 16 billion unaccounted for, India trip 15 million, the town wastewater plant 1.2 billion, 87 million for fence at Golden Grove Prison, 330 million to purchase and retrofit old massive warehouse in Santa Rosa for SOE prisons. UNC net 6 billion in exchequer account, left it at 33 billion in permanent deficit. NGC spent 1.1 million to buy all-inclusive test beds to South Cancer for friends and family of government. 53 million spent to rent building in Barataria never used. 330,000 for Roti at Prime Minister residence. 4 acres of land given to John Abu de Chagramas for 1 year for 30 years to build a car park to lease CDA at 900,000 a month. 175 million to purchase Eden Gardens, which was valued at 52 million by an independent valuation. 35 acres was given to John Abu to Water Park, 3,800 per month with a value of 500,000. 50 million for your voices, government working for you. 20 million for your happiness campaign. Kamla and her UNC gave the mega farms in Tucker Valley to Joe Pius 100 acres to plant onions. He paid a portion to host Carnival Fest. 27 million to renovate ambassadors' residence in Geneva, no tender. 6 million wasted to lease Galicia for 53 days because it couldn't dock whilst they built a ramp. Billions gone with 2 contractors as they left the shores of Trinidad and Tobago for a foreign land under the watchful eyes of Kamla and the UNC. Have you protested the high level of corruption to take place under a watchful eye of the UNC, Kamla and the UNC? If all these monies are stayed in the treasury, you are going to have a better roads and proper water supply. The UNC was in government from 2010 to 2015, spent 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. The 5 political parties, MSJ, UNC, TOP, COP, and Jack. 5 leaders, Kamla, Winston, Ashwood, Bacandela, and McLeod. 29 seats. The largest cabinet, 41 ministers, $67 billion budget for the 5 years. Oil price at $120 a barrel, the highest in the history of Trinidad and Tobago since 1946. What they have done for you? Still, the coalition led by the political leader of the UNC, Kusat Bisesa, failed. She plunged Trinidad and Tobago into a recession. She's in no position to criticize anyone or the PNM political party. The citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago has experienced the UNC capabilities in and out of government, and they are not good for our nation, for right-thinking people. Turn your worries into worship and watch God turn your battles into blessing. The mind of the corrupted must not prevail unless you are sleeping with the devil. Thoughts, you should know that right. Thought you should know that that's now. Right, thought you should know that the book Corruption in the PP is now out on paperback. So Dominic, as I close, that is the listing of what happened under the UNC led by Kamla. And people have to understand what happened in 2010. God forbid they come back next year, it'll be 10 times worse than what they do in 2010. So people, let's be focused, let's continue to fight, and let us fight for what is just in this country. I forget about all the naysayers and all the hypocrites and them. Dominic, good program, lots of listening.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Brian. Hello. Brian, are you there? Hello. Hello, good afternoon. Yes, sir.
You know, I don't exactly. But corrupt with Ms. Rhoda Barrett.
About what?
With Ms. Rhoda Barrett. You know, anyway, so what happened with the case that Mr. G-String lost case against her?
Yes.
So I don't know if she's coming back with the news source now. So I was wondering maybe in the future you and her could probably collaborate on something.
Mm.
You know? And also now too, seeing that the demise of that program on Mr. Amar Station, the ground foot, is no longer on here. I'm hearing some folks know that they're looking for a new rule.
Well,
and I hear what that man is eyeing up to what that man.
Yes.
Yeah. I just asking you now, I think it's time to do something, some kind of alliance now. With all the lies about that, seeing how the media is so biased or covering certain stories again. I'm talking about things and government activity, people had to do what they had to do.
Right.
I think maybe you and other directors have some kind of alliance and do some kind of something. Because I remember you had to be TV and all of a sudden they're calling you back again.
Yes.
So I don't know that, though. It's just a suggestion. Maybe you and Kenny and Roland and other people involved in something. So we could beat them for the 2024 upcoming election.
Right. Well, we'll see what Rhoda decides to do. Brian.
Hello, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Our phone here, I want to prevent me from talking. After this, I use you both. Good afternoon to your listeners and callers. Dominic, former President General of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, Aaron McLeod, resides comfortably in a brand new house in Rosilac. It was a new development at the time. His house was one of the first houses built there. At the time, it was said it was worth $2.5 million. That was what, 15 years ago. And he also got a vehicle worth about the same price. Plus, he got his Texaco pension. He's getting his Texaco pension. And I want to believe he's also getting his. And he got it as an operator. At the time, that was what was said. I believe he's also getting a OWTU. I don't know that for sure. That part I don't know. I am assuming he would also would have gotten some monies from the Oilfield Workers Trade.
And his pension as a former parliamentarian, and he would have gotten his gratuity as well.
Right. So he is very comfortable. I understand he had some health issues and he went off to England to see about it. I have not heard anything from him since. So I do not know how he is health-wise and so on, because he has not been in the limelight in South. I have not seen it. But I'm almost certain that he would be listening very attentively to all the goings on with respect to the Oilfield Workers Trade Union. Because when I was there, he was very, very front and center at the point of view roundabout on many occasions, cussing whoever was in office at that point in time. And I ain't asking you this one, I'm telling you that one because I used to be listening. Dominic, is quite a shame that the current President General Roger would come to the roundabout with his band of merry men to share his quote-unquote concerns about the persons who were being on that particular day were being shown the refinery by the management team of PanoTrin Holdings Limited. Right? He would have been there with his team, and he burnt pictures of the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Stuart Young, SC, who he calls Stuart Little. Apparently he is taking examples from a particular individual who likes to call Stuart Young all sorts of little names. And also Mr. Jintal.
Yes.
And accused the government of hiring of supporting a corrupt individual, from India. And that indicated that Jintal cannot leave India unless he gets permission from the government. Well, I tried to figure out who in our government could leave the country without letting the cabinet know that they are about to leave the country to go somewhere on any sort of business. Without the government or the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister being aware. Because Mr. Jintal is also a member of Parliament of the Moody Kiss-Me-Foot government.
Yes.
Yeah. So I trying to understand and this issue that took place in sometime I understand in 2012.
Yes.
right? I don't know. And as the Honorable Prime Minister indicated, right now, Boeing has issues, criminal issues before the court. Are we to stop purchasing planes from Boeing? But you see, the issue is for me, that is not Boeing, is that Roger on June the 19th pledged his allegiance to the UNC. And they have members who have criminal matters before the court. So is it that he don't have a problem indicating his allegiance to the UNC and the band of merry men and women, some of them having matters and issues before the court that are of questionable character, that it's okay for him to align himself with them? Sideline his good friend and the MSJ, David Abdullah, who wasn't even there, on earlier last week by the roundabout. So your sideline is, so he must be vexed with you, but he ain't saying so. But you come to talk about Gentile, and you have aligned yourself with the UNC. With the chief whip is a fraudster before the court. Where certain other individual have questions to answer with respect to according to Justice Aboud about the EMBD matter, and many others. You have no problem with that. And you're talking about a man who have some matter halfway around the world that you don't know nothing about. Halfway around the world. And you saying that, oh, you have concerns about him? What do you know about that matter? What do you know about that issue? But you know what's instructive, Dominic, about when they were by the roundabout, airing their views and so on. You know, I see one UNC member in support of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union last week by the roundabout. Where was Wade Mark? Where was Rudy Bamboo Palace Indar Singh? Two staunch previous union men. Where were they in support of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union? Where were they? There was Kamala Prasad Bisesa. Not one UNC was by the roundabout in support. The same UNC, when patriotic energies, when it was indicated by the Minister of Finance in the Parliament that patriotic energies was the preferred bidder, and the UNC wanted to take patriotic energies to court. Yes, the same patriotic energies who today have 5 cents to rub together in the pocket. It was the same UNC wanted to take them to court to prevent them from obtaining the refinery. The same patriotic energies who got three, not one, not two, but 3 times were given the opportunity to purchase the refinery and couldn't do it because they couldn't rub 2 5 cents together. That was the UNC then, to support them. But no, you won't remember all that. You think we forget. But today I want to cock up under the petticoat of the UNC. The yellow petticoat. You have a problem with that. We're talking about Gentile. Gentile who can buy and sell patriotic energies 1 million times over. That refinery needs people with deep pockets. For years they're complaining that the refinery closed down. People out of work, defense like communities see in trouble. Dominic, I don't know, you don't know, Saul, but if you go on Burma, there's a time the Burman Hill is a part of the southern main road leading from Point of Pay to Marabella. When you go up that hill, there was a beautiful view of the Gulf of Paria. A beautiful view. Today, since Chintok take over and refinery closed, it's only bush. You can't see the Gulf of Paria. You can't see the vessels coming in. You can't see the ships. It's pure bush, pure forest. And they were saying Texaco must go. Texaco used to take care of all of that when they were here. Texaco, now Chevron, used to take care of all of that when they were here. They wanted Texaco to go. As soon as Texaco leaves, Texaco, they want us to go, okay, where we will go. You know what happening? The school that I went to, the school that Chris Harris, the golfer, went to, the school that Giselle Aaron West went to, Close down. Close down. The place is now a sight for sore eyes. You have to stop your vehicle for snake to pass across the road. And I want Roger to come back there to do what? How much money Roger have? Roger could do anything with fixing those tanks that's leaking, where there are prohibition stickers on the tanks that you cannot, that the workers cannot even climb, cannot even use right now up to today as we speak. I'm going to take hundreds of millions of dollars to repair. The new line work that must be there to ensure that we don't flare the excess gas into the atmosphere because of our signing on to the Paris Agreement. Where Roger going to get money? Where Patriotic Energy is going to get money? Who is this partner he's going to tell? Let him tell us. He ain't telling me nothing. This is going to cost, this needs people with deep, very deep pockets, Dominic. Do not be fooled, Trinidad and Tobago. This refinery needs a complete modernizing and overhauling. And it will take, before you could even light one fire to bring oil into the one unit, one distillation column, it's going to need millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to refurbish. Let Roger explain to the people where he's getting our money from and who it is giving him the money so we could examine them too. Talk about Gentile who have deep pockets, who can afford to buy you over and over. Because when you complaining one name of the people who get it's how Marabella's so dead, nothing is going on in Marabella and San Fernando, people suffering, and the French-like community suffering, the people suffering, nothing is going on in South. But here comes the Honorable Prime Minister who saved us. Right now we're paying the $12 billion comfortably through heritage. And you coming to tell us today that you don't want Gentile there? We don't want. Tell us. Tell us who you want. Tell us who you have. Tell us what monies you have. Tell us where you're going to get the oil from to run the refinery. Or is it going to be dependent upon the government again? To be the people to okay the loans that they will have to take for an exchange that will be necessary to purchase the raw crude to supply the refinery. Because we don't have it here in Trinidad. We only make it about 50,000 barrels a day. We don't have it to run that refinery efficiently. Where are you going to get it from? Where are you going to get the raw crude from? Tell us. But you don't tell us that. You're talking about Roger this and Roger that and Stuart Young. And we don't want to hear that. We hear that already. Tell us where you're going to get the raw crude from and who is your partner. But you will never hear that from them, Dominic. You know why? Because they have nothing to offer except old talk. Because elections come in. That is all they have to offer. The people of South. We the people who know better. We know better. It's going to take, as I said, millions of dollars to get that refinery up and running. But none of them have it. So whatever it is coming up for that, we set a promise here. That is a joke. She has nothing to that is for both and nothing more. Because when they get in there, it'll be the worst day of our lives. Because they already set the trail for them to run. I ain't studying them. Dominic, you see this Wasa issue very quickly. Dominic, it just goes to show, I remember when in 2015 this government got in there. I remember a certain man who was, as you rightly indicated, saying, leave it so. And I will talk for my wife. I am the PRO for my wife. I will talk for her. After this, we don't know what is that woman's qualification. She was the big stop cocker. She was stopping cock at millions of dollars. I don't know what that does. I don't know. I'm not saying what man. I don't know. But to be getting the kind of money she was getting, the kind of millions of dollars that she was getting as a stop cocker, I want to know what that really is. I would like a man from Wasa to call and explain to me what a stop cock does. What type type of job is that? What kind of contractual arrangement that this woman could get from Wasa? But your husband was an employee. You're talking about conflict of interest, nepotism, you're talking about all of these things. And all of these union men who was getting quite contractual arrangements and so on, all these managers who was only managing 1 and 2 and 3 people. And now we're getting here about the Tagariga Wasa area there. So I think this was going on all over Trinidad and Tobago, Dominic. That is why we had to be forking out $2 billion every year to keep Wasa afloat.
Correct.
And every Monday morning, people talking about, we had no water for 2 months, I no water for 3 months, what's going on? They're killing we. And I remember Ganga Singh saying, coming up to the election, that we have 73% of the population getting 24/7 water from Wasa. The big talk was about pipe for camera, she about pipe and pipe and pipe. And people in our own constituency, when there was a big, imagine, if nobody could imagine a man investing, hear my word I'm using, investing in a water truck to supply the people of Mondiablo water for years. He invested and walking, as the same as the people were saying, was walking on with fire and your mouth to talk. All these years and under the nose of the constituency representative for that area, and nothing was done. The opposition leader. I remember people quarreling, Rudy and Nelson quarreling every Monday morning, but people in Freeport they get no water. When last year people in Freeport say they get no water. And the amount of corruption, people be turning millionaires. And people, they're borrowing money to send home people and bring back Dominic. I mean, Minister Gonzalez having to deal with, but he is dealing with it. And thank God he is there to deal with that issue. Because I'm telling you, I think the most, out of all of the state enterprises where there is corruption, I think Wasa is the worst. I don't want to repeat many things that you said. I think you've covered everything. But Wasa is the worst, and I am surprised. And you know, it's true. Nobody in jail yet, boy. Nobody in jail yet. For what? Wasa corrupt enterprise. And Dominic, just as an aside, when they held the Assistant Commissioner in the Board of Inland Revenue for fixing himself, he's the Assistant Commissioner, Dominic, in the Board of Inland. Why would they don't want no revenue authority? Imagine you as the assistant, you're supposed to be assisting your subordinates and showing them how they can get organized revenue and the revenue authority and so on. And you fixing yourself since 2014, Dominic. And on top of that, when you go, as far as my calculation, what I saw on a particular screen on another frequency, you fix yourself with over $3 million that we know about so far, and you only get bail for $200,000. $200,000, Dominic, and you go on. Still remember your case call? Dominic, he is one that we caught. Whistleblowers blowing whistle, but they're fighting for their life. People in life, according to the Honorable Prime Minister, chapter and verse being reported from those people who can leave Trinidad and Tobago to give evidence abroad on life sport. And I had to listen to people bawling and talking about the PNM and the PNM and the PNM, thieving day and night at your sleep, they're thieving all the money. And when they don't thief out, they borrow the thief. And people go and put them back and vote for them and clap and them. Yeah, mother, yeah. Really? If we don't understand what time it is, we will never understand again. Dominic, more to say, but have a good day.
Thank you, sir. It's the time, 2:08. So I've gone past my 2 o'clock cutoff time. Let me just take this last one quickly. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I won't be long, but you see, what Eric had said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna share that. Continue to share that because the numbers the numbers of viewers is not enough that will be receiving this information, but I will share this information. Eric, very good contribution. There's the truth we're dealing with, you know, against the lies that plague in the country. So I'm going to share that. Right, Dominic, continue to do the good and continue in prayer, and you'll get our support always.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure the admin will post up that list on the debunking page on Facebook. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Dominic.
Hey, Jen.
I just want to reiterate what I may have said last weekend. It's not just good enough that we're saying that we love what you're saying and the information you're giving. And when you look on Facebook, you're seeing 10 shares. We should up the ante and be seeing 200 and something shares that message is getting out. That's the only way they will hear it. You hear it and just simply say, no, I mean, no disrespect to those who are listening now and giving a contribution, but I'm also saying the information has to be shared. Another thing, this continuous speaking about the PNN social media office or the PRO, I think by now, we should just let go of that conversation. When I say we, I mean all of us, all who listening, all who texting, who just have their lives and what have been in support of the policies of this government. We are the PROs and we are the social media officers. And we need to get that into our head and stop waiting on something that is not happening. Because if, Dominic, you had waited after you did not win the position of social media officer when you went up, and Mr. Chance and others like ourselves had just said, listen, there's a social media officer now, let us leave it to them to do. We have never been in the position we in now, where people are actually listening because the message would not have gotten out. We made a decision that despite whatever it is, with no incentive, no payments or anything, but patriotism and love for country and what is right, we decided to do what we are doing, and we are here 3 or 4 years or how much years later. I'm also saying to the members of parliament, I know you all have a busy schedule. I know Minister Young is really busy with all the work he's doing in his ministry and flying out to treat with contracts and all that and things that in the interest of this country to bring us revenue, moving away from oil going to gas. I know the Prime Minister is extremely busy. He has his stuff to do also, and all the other ministers, Minister Gonzalez, etc. But please, I know sometimes Minister Young, you'll see him on a radio station, you'll even see Dr. Rowley, you will see Minister Gonzalez, you may even see Mr. MP Randall Mitchell, or once I would have think I heard Member of Parliament for down Saudi Abraham Mane. But MPs, you all need to go to the radio station, not just 95.5 or 91.9. There's Boom Champion and those other stations that have a different demographics and different clientele. You all need to go and speak there also. If you all don't know how to do it, or you're just shy about going on camera, whatever, get somebody to go and promote the work that is happening in your ministry. And of course, you know, Minister Foster Cummings is out there. But those things are important because all we have is Dominic, Minister 95.5, and now 91.9, we barely down to just about 2 programs. So the message has to come out. The ministers also have to do their part. This is not no joke. If you are serious and wanting the People's National Movement to remain in office, to make sure that the tracks that has been laid now by Dr. Rowley, our transnational leader, that no other booty would just run in just and eat up what they never do, because let's see what they do in 2010 to 15. Imagine they get back to office, what they're going to do with all them oil leases. First of all, President Maduro might pull out because they never supported him. You understand what I'm saying? So we're in a position now that we need all hands on deck. And we might be on the ground. Well, I say me, because I'm on the ground, me have no big position, me have no masters, me have no doctorate. I'm a simple citizen in this country who believes in the policies of the People's National Movement and understand during their tenure, the longest party in office in this country, that every infrastructure, every policy, every program has been instituted by the People's National Movement. And Kamala and all of them who was part of this government, they were beneficiaries of all the policies of this country that the PNM put. Because if Dr. Eric Williams didn't put education for all, when long time we started a play to go, Kamala Pasal-Bissessar couldn't have gone to school. She may have been relegated to getting married at 11-year-old to a big 40-year-old man, or working in the garden, or selling by the roadside the little vegetables and tomatoes and that. And those things are facts. Because the People's National Movement, all of them able to run them out now on policies and things that they enjoy. I want to say PNM is used. So people, ministers of government, you all need to come out also and speak to the population. And again, we are the social media officers. We are the PROs of the People's National Movement, unofficially, of course. And we need to keep doing what you're doing. Thank you again, Dominic, and thanks to all who are locked on and tuning. Blessed week.
Thank you, Jen. Final call. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, hi.
You remember the guy who came, who killed the man from India? The man Sota and the Kamala?
No, can't remember.
He killed a man with a scar. Where were they then? If murder was a fraud, you spilled somebody's blood. How convenient. If that man had a charge in 2011, when Kamala was Prime Minister, why is it an issue now? Did it come to light? Was it on slow mail back in Eden, where you had a fan of flame, and when rain fall, the flame went out? How convenient. You are grasping at straws. The upholder is worse than the thief. If I rob somebody, and if you have the goods, go to police on me. You both guilty. Roger, I tell you, you are like a singing dog. You don't know what you want. I think the hot sun kill your last brain cell. The coffin is bargain for Mr. Young and Prime Minister and Rowley. That will be a caution. Because when you do witchcraft, your hand has to go in your pocket to take off your keys. You're going to open a door, close door, put on seatbelt, start the car, drive home. Well, guess what? You're doing evil, it has come home by you. Because you have to open your gate, close your gate, wipe your feet, close front door. You have doomed yourself. You have doomed yours. And UNC is not patriotic. Because if you love this land, you want the best land of your birth. You are cursing your own land. And when you curse in your own home, the atmosphere in your home will pick up your curse. So guess what? When you get your get, take a get, and know it's you. Dharma God, good weekend, and good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Right, so it's 2:17 people. Thank you all so much for joining me. Joycelyn, Pam, Gray, Dandy, Sandiford, thank you all so much. All right, and on the international front, I'm seeing that President Biden has made a decision. He will not be seeking re-election. He's dropping out of the US presidential race, having been pressured by Democrats and others for the past couple of weeks. So it appears that the United States of America will have a new president after November 5th. Yes, a letter was just sent out by Mr. Biden indicating he will not seek re-election. It's most unfortunate. But I guess the pressure was too much, especially when persons such as, the likes of Barack Obama and all of these guys who basically tell him he can't win. I disagree. I think the media would have been responsible for this, but it is what it is. He's made his decision, and yeah. So now we will see if Kamala Harris will be at the top of the ticket. There is talk that there is a faction in the Democratic Party who doesn't want her to be at the top of the ticket. So let's see how that goes. But I can tell you, if they make the mistake to put anybody else, they can bet the bottom dollar Trump is going to win. Because, aside from Biden, I mean, who else has that presidential experience? So we will see how things unfold, and whether or not Kamala Harris, and how that is going to work. So thank you all so much, and we will chat again on Tuesday morning, God's willing, folks. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Keep safe, and that's it for me today. Angela is saying Gavin Newsom, a running mate maybe, Angela, but definitely not at the top of the ticket. Right? I don't think that African Americans would take too kindly to Kamala Harris being removed from the top of the ticket to put anybody else. But we'll see how that goes. Never a dull moment in US politics. So enjoy the rest of your day, folks.